you?
Good, you?
All right, good luck. Good luck.
It's coming in. We're standing on hold.
Looks that way, yeah. Looks that way.
Yeah, we're going to try to start as soon as we can.
Okay.
And I'll make a few remarks and turn over.
Okay, so it's not that you don't want me to make the statement first, the nonpartisan statement, and then indicate that you'll be making, Al will be making, addressing.
No, we're just what I'm going to do. Nonpartisan board.
Okay. All right. No problem. Okay, that's fine. We'll do it that way. All right.
Hello? Can you hear me? The mic on. Can anybody hear me?
Testing, testing. Al? Al? Hey.
All right, I think we're ready to get started. Hello? Am I talking to myself? That's good. We'll just do it here. Pardon me?
Oh, you can't it's just not as loud as you promised.
Okay.
So if I turn it up louder, it's going to get...
Okay.
All right, we might as well start it.
Ladies and gentlemen, do I have a mic?
I'll be joining you.
All righty.
Okay, it's time to get started. First of all, thank you very much for coming out for the final forum sponsored by the Non-Partisan Committee. This is the third in a series, and this is our last forum. So thank you so much for coming out, and thanks for the co-ops for sponsoring this forum. Just a quick second. My name is Jack Donahue, and I'm the chairman of the Nonpartisan Committee. For those that are not familiar, I think a lot of you are members, but are not familiar. The Nonpartisan Committee started in Park Forest. It was initiated in 1955, over 60 years ago. And the purpose of it was one of the purposes was to give any person in the village an opportunity to run for office in the village without affiliation with a political party. So it's a very independent organization. And we just wanted to make that statement. And also the other thing I'd like to say is that we're still, if you're not a member, we would love to have you. Dues is $2 for seniors, $3 for individuals. So it's a pretty big deal. I just want to do two things before we get the forum started. First is to introduce the nonpartisan board. As I mentioned, I'm the chairman, but the board has been working very hard over the last 6 months or more, trying to help put these forums together. And just quickly to introduce them, I'd start out with Katie Armstrong. Where's Katie? Yeah, Katie is. She has she's a former trustee of Park Forest, so she knows the ropes from this trustee standpoint, and has been very, very instrumental in distributing literature that you may or may not have received, but there's some back at the desk like this with the candidate statements and the nonpartisan brochure. So Katie was out literally delivering hundreds of these to individuals and to key areas in the village. Secondly, I'd like to introduce our Vice President, Clarence Banks, in the back of the room. Clarence has been with the committee for a long time, and he was responsible for putting together the candidate statement brochure and getting the quotes from the candidates. So that Clarence is our Vice President. Next, we have the Kathy Busto. Kathy's our secretary back there. Kathy's been working with us all this time, and she's our secretary. We've had a bunch of meetings, and every time after a meeting, nobody on the board knows what the heck happened. So we go to Kathy and say, Kathy, can you tell us what we just did? And she did. So that was a terrific job. Then we have Joe Carroll. Joe's in the back of the room, and Joe is his experience is he ran as a trustee candidate a couple of years ago. So he was very valuable to us in saying that here's what the candidates are from his perspective. So Joe has done that, and Joe is also responsible for giving us getting all this literature out and in the mail on time. And Joe is also an ex-Marine, which makes him special, as you can tell with what he's got on there. And then Marlon Kennedy. Marlon Kennedy's up front here. Marlon is our treasurer. And Marlon is also, in addition to his duty as a treasurer, he has done all our publicity. And I think he's set new grounds for getting awareness for the election and for the nonpartisan committee this year. In addition to Marlon produced the logo at the front of the desk there. You can see he did that all by himself, came up with the idea, produced it. But he has also improved our website. He's found a way to put all these forums on YouTube. So after the forum, in case you missed something, you want to see it again, or if some friends haven't seen it, you can go on YouTube, and it's now being televised live to residents of the village. But Marlon did that, and he also was responsible for just doing some commercials through cooperation with the village. We've been on electronic signs in the village and posters throughout strategic areas. So our publicity, I think, has been outstanding this year. So, and finally, I'd like to introduce Al Sturgis. Al is a long time. He's a stalwart of the nonpartisan committee, and he heads up our campaign practices committee. Long-time member. Okay, there's two things I'd like to do. Just two more things real quick, and one more thing. And we'd like to do this as and I'd like to read the statements. Before every village election season, the nonpartisan committee asks all candidates to sign two statements agreeing to the rules of the nonpartisan committee. All the candidates this year signed all the statements. During and after the February 8th forum, which is our last forum, the majority of the nonpartisan committee found that Jerome Brown and Gary Kopachinski violated Article 2 of the Campaign Practices Statement, which reads, quote, "Statements made or documents distributed by me shall relate only to my candidacy for the office," unquote. Thus, any comments by Mr. Brown about candidates in the trustee race are inappropriate. Any comments by Mr. Kopachinski about a candidate in the presidential race are also inappropriate. During the February 8th forum at Village Hall, Jerome Brown appeared to make negative comments about Gary Kopachinski, a candidate for trustee. His statement was taken by some as a reference to Mr. Kopachinski's health. Mr. Brown also made negative comments about Mr. Kopachinski's company, E-News Park Forest, including a statement that using Park Forest in its name was inappropriate. Mr. Kopachinski published an article, "Can't Take the Heat, Get Out of the Election." It was on E-News Park Forest. Mr. Kopachinski said that the intent of the article was applicable to any person running for office. The majority of the nonpartisan committee board felt the article appeared to be directed at Mr. Brown. This public statement is the only action the board intends to make on this matter. And if anybody has any questions or comments about these statements, we invite you to attend our April 11th post-election meeting at Village Hall at 10:30. Okay, now we'd like to proceed with the candidates forum. Thank you very, very much. And I'd like now to introduce Ray Funderburg, our moderator. Ray?
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is our third and final forum for the candidates. Before we get started, however, I have to read a statement on behalf of the nonpartisan committee. Now, Mr. Donahue indicated since 1955. However, the statement that I'm told to read or asked to read indicates 1956. So I guess I'll be correcting Mr. Donahue, or Mr. Donahue will be correcting the nonpartisan committee, one or the other. Since 1956, the nonpartisan committee has provided forums to enable all candidates for village office to present their views to the public without expense to themselves. We have been able to do so with the help of citizens like you. To help maintain this tradition, we ask that you consider joining the committee or that you renew your membership if you are already a member. Dues are only $3 for an individual, $5 for families, and $2 for senior citizens. Senior citizens, sorry. A representative from the nonpartisan committee board has brochures explaining the committee, its objectives, and would be glad to sign you up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, since the last forum, the nonpartisan committee has approved several modifications to the format of the forum. First is the lineup or the order in which the candidates will be presented. For this forum, the library board candidates will proceed first and will be presented first. Next, candidates for village trustee will be presented, and then candidates for village president. There have been further modifications approved by the board. First of all, to the questioners, when you ask your questions, you'll be given 45 seconds to ask questions. Previously, the time limit was 30 seconds. The time limit has been expanded 15 seconds to 45 seconds. Next, for the questioners, we ask that you stay in line so that everyone will know whom it is that is in line to ask questions. There was some mix-up at the last forum. Some persons who wished to ask questions were not in line, and other persons wishing to ask questions was not aware that those persons wished to ask questions. Finally, the board has agreed or suggested that there be the questions for trustees be limited to 6 questions. 6 questions for the trustee candidates. The board also has decided that there will be 9 questions for candidates for village president. Further, Gesundheit. Further, the library board candidates will be given an opportunity to present a statement, and then you will have the opportunity to ask questions of the library board candidates. This too differs from the last form. One final change, one final modification is that with respect to the candidates for village president, the candidate that presents the opening statement first will be given an opportunity to present the closing statement last. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you, ladies and gentlemen, the individuals that are seated next to me, to my right and to my left, the candidates for library board trustee. To my left, I have Ms. Felicia M. Rangel. To my right, Mr. Eric Duval Rodman. We'll start with Ms. Rangel with an opening statement, and each candidate will be given an opportunity to present a 2-minute opening statement. Okay. And then you'll have the opportunity to ask questions, ladies and gentlemen, of each library board candidate if you wish. Ms. Rangel?
Thank you, Judge. Thank you all for joining us today for the last forum. And I also like to thank the Non-Partisan Committee for coordinating these and the Area 4 Cooperative for sponsoring. My name, as Judge Funderburg stated, is Felicia M. Rangel. I have been a resident of Park Forest since '76, and I'm a standing trustee now. I was appointed due to a vacancy. I also served on as a trustee in 2012. I ran and I didn't win, so I was able to rejoin the board again, and which is a testament, I think, to how much I am very passionate about our library. I'm passionate about Park Forest. I'm extremely passionate about libraries, but I'm extremely passionate about this particular library. This was, the Park Forest Library was a huge foundation in my life. When we moved here, I was a very shy kid and didn't make friends easily, so the library was a haven for me where I read, had possibilities, and that's the thing that I want to continue to serve and promote, that our libraries are fundamental in our community, and we need that, and this is one of the things that I hope I can get your support on April 7th in the election to remain as your library trustee. I have a very brief opening statement, so thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Rodman?
Good afternoon. I also would like to thank Area 4 Co-ops and the Nonpartisan Committee and all of you for coming out. I, too, have been out here for almost over 40 years. I'm a homeowner, grew up on Ash Street, and the library has been a part of my life. I wasn't a babysitter, but I learned to my imagination. I wasn't allowed really to watch television that much as a kid. I'm appointed now. I was appointed last year to the library board, but I had run also like Ms. Rangel. And it's been a part of my life. I like what it is and what it can be. I miss the Dewey Decimal System. I'm just going to say that. Me and the computers aren't the best, but I do miss that. But I like seeing what they've done, and I like being a part of the growth. I like seeing the seniors come in, or the older folks, because I'm getting closer to that side. But I like what they do for the young children on the side with the reading and the crafts. And it is a hub, because most of us in here used it to go study. We didn't have, computers at home. We had to go look up the encyclopedias and the Dewey Decimal System after school. And it's growing and changing, but it's still a hub of the village. And I really appreciate that, and I've grown to love it. And I want to be a part of its growth. And now that I'm on the board, I learned the nuances of keeping it running and keeping it relevant for the new and the older. And I want to stay a part of it. So on April 7th, I would really appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. For those of you who have questions, I'm going to ask that you move to the west wall behind the podium and line up there so that you may ask questions. And while persons are moving to the west wall, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that early voting starts on March 23rd and ends on April 4th. And I also want to remind you that Election Day is Tuesday, April 7th. So please be sure that you mark your calendars so that you vote on those days. We have someone with a question?
Yeah.
Ma'am, would you please state your name and your address?
My name is Sheila Nesbitt, and I live at 26 Kodiak Road.
Thank you.
And I have a question for Felicia. Mm-hmm. And my question is, lately, in the last few years, I've noticed a large majority of homeless people in the library during the times you're open. Have you been thinking of any other ways to assist them by they just sit, and it's kind of very sad. Is there any programs in process at the library that can start to, or work with the village to assist them?
Thank you. Let me say, okay. The question is directed to Ms. Rangel, and let me say, ladies and gentlemen, that each candidate, all of the candidates will have an opportunity to respond to any question that is directed to any individual candidate. So Mr. Rodman will be given an opportunity, if he wishes, to respond to the question also.
That's fine.
Ms. Rangel?
Ms. Nesbitt, it has not been brought to our attention, but I will take your question back to the board, and it's something to talk about, because you're right. It's unfortunate for to be in that state, and it would be nice, to your suggestion, that if there's something else that we can do more. I mean, we can possibly outline, hand out literature for our places they can, which they may already know, and maybe it would be helpful to kind of have an outreach, maybe to have someone that can talk to them to kind of find out what their issue is, and to offer assistance in finding housing or a job, or so it's a very admirable point that you're bringing up, that maybe we need to do more, and that's part of the library. It's not just about our books and providing, knowledge, and, we're a mainstay in the community. What can we do to help our citizens? So I will definitely take your question back to the board. That's a good one. Thank you.
Mr. Rodman, do you care to respond?
Yes. I've been a volunteer with PADS for over 20 years. And Ms. Nesbitt, the reason they come in is because of the PACE bus drops them off, and it starts running early. And New Faith and St. Irenaeus each have a night where they house the homeless. So with the bus schedule, they need to come in a little early, and it's the only place they can sit. They've been coming for years. And I used to do outreach with them, and they're respectful of it. But so they have to come in early, and then they make their way over to each church. They try not to. I've talked to the staff, because like I said, I've worked with them. And they know that they're blessed to have a place to stay warm instead of standing outside. So that's why they're in the library.
Yeah, that's good. My one concern. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just one question. Sorry.
Sorry.
We got one more question.
Thank you, Mr. Rodman. We have another young lady. Ma'am, would you state your name and your address, please?
My name is Pat Schanenberger, 24 Choate. I have to say I've become very disappointed in the library. It's great for your children. It's great for people who need it.
We understand that you want to make a statement, ma'am, but we'd like for you to ask a question.
Well, this is I am. I'm saying why. It's because there's no interest in supplying books for adults. Every time I go to take out a book, I get it from another library a couple of days later, even classics.
Ma'am, we have to have your question.
The question is, why don't you have books for adults?
Is that your question?
Yes, there's hardly any books in the library anymore.
Directed to both candidates?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll start with Mr. Rodman. Mr. Rodman?
Yes, that is a good question, and it has come up at a couple of the meetings where people have come in and spoke on about the same subject. The library has so much space that can be dedicated, and when people check books out or order them, if they sit a certain amount of time, they move them out and try to move on. We use over 70 other libraries to get your book, and I understand that you want to be able to come in and just peruse the shelves, because I missed that too. But they have to keep relevant, and certain things do disappear. And if they're not touched or taken out, they are moved off the shelves to make more room for relevant books. I'm sorry, I know that's not going to ease or appease you, but that's the reason it is.
And
Thank you, Ms. Rangel.
Oh, okay. And so I will echo the sentiment of Mr. Rodman. But so I guess can I ask a question of you as when you? Oh, I can't ask a question. Okay.
Okay.
So yes, we are allotted so much space and of the other things that we want to provide for the library. Our interlibrary loan system is by far the best that I've ever seen, and so I know yes, I miss the joy of perusing the shelves and pulling that book out, but I also find that with the interlibrary system, the book comes to the library, I go pick it up, so it's not like I'm missing the fact that I'm not having the book that I want to read, and so I know that's part of the experience, but once again, we want to keep relevant information and relevant books there. One of the things that came up in our meeting was that for the books that we do dispose of, and when I say dispose, we're not throwing books away. We give books to other libraries that may be underfunded. We give them to high schools or to community centers, but we may need to bring back maybe the Park Forest Library Cell where our citizens can purchase those favorite books that they're missing. So that is something that we're looking into. But in the overall, it is related to that we have to make room for new publications and new materials. So I guess I would like to talk to you afterwards to get a little bit more clarification around your concern.
Thank you. Time is up. Thank you, ma'am.
I think that's it for the library.
All right, I'm told, ladies and gentlemen, that that's all the questions that we have for the library board candidates. I'm going to take a point of privilege and give each library board candidate 1 minute to present a closing statement. We'll start with Mr. Rodman. 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Again, I want to say thank you to the Non-Partisan Committee and the co-ops for hosting this, and all of you are coming out. I know you're not here for us two people from the library board, but I do appreciate you listening and your questions. And please don't forget to vote on April 7th.
Thank you. Ms. Rangel?
And yes, I would like to echo the sentiment as well of thanking the Nonpartisan Committee for all the forums and the outstanding job that they've done during this time, and specifically to the Area 4 Cooperative for sponsoring. And I can't say enough, once again, I love my library. I want to serve the citizens of Park Forest, and we also serve the citizens of Olympia Fields. But it's a joy. I can't describe. I can't imagine me not being a part of it. It's been a part of my life since '76, and I want to continue to serve as far as I can, as long as I can. So I do ask for your support on April 7th to continue serving you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, please let's give our candidates for the library board a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dad.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
All right, we won't take a break or anything, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have our candidates for village trustee to come forward and have a seat. I see that they're making their way to the fore. Is this the order that they're going to be seated? Okay. We're waiting for Mr. Kopasinski, and it looks like we have all of our candidates seated and assembled.
Your Honor, how are you?
Good afternoon, candidates for village trustee. Ladies and gentlemen, we have our candidates for village trustee assembled now. The order in which we will proceed is that each candidate in alphabetical order will be given an opportunity to present a 2-minute opening statement. Once the opening statements have been presented, we'll then proceed with questions from the audience. Each candidate also will be given, in alphabetical order, an opportunity to present a 2-minute closing statement. So at this time, we'll start with candidate May Brandon with respect to a 2-minute opening statement. May Brandon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge. Thank you. And thank you for being the moderator today. First of all, good afternoon to the audience, both here in Village Hall and those of you that are out there looking on. Thank you to the Nonpartisan Committee for keeping this tradition alive and well in Park Forest, and thank you to Area 4 Cooperatives for sponsoring the forum this afternoon. I've been almost 49-year resident in the village of Park Forest. It has been a village in which I have grown up, and literally. While I was not born here, I literally have grown up here. Because of the various activities that I was involved in, the volunteers activities that I was involved in, it led to my current occupation, which is an occupational therapist. I've always been a volunteer. I grew up that way as a child. It was instilled in us. So Park Forest was the perfect place for us to live. It's the only place that we've lived. I was appointed as trustee in 2002 and have served up until this point. I am committed to helping this village continue to weather the challenges. We have weathered challenges much better than those communities that have had more revenue than we. We've weathered those challenges to villages that are larger than we. We've done a really good job of that, and we're moving forward into the future. And I want to continue to do that, to move it to Park Forest into the future, the place that I will want to continue to live, as well as you and the future young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tiffany Graham, you have the opportunity to present a 2-minute opening statement, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge Funderburk. I appreciate you being here and being our moderator as well. I'd like to thank the residents that are here today and the ones in the viewing audience at home that couldn't make it out today. My name is Tiffany Graham. I'm a Rich East graduate, class of 98. I'm a lifelong resident of Park Forest. I've been here for 34 years, and I have my 35th birthday in August, so that's how long I've been here. I growing up in Park Forest, I pretty much think that I've seen the best and the worst of Park Forest, and I want to be part of the team to revitalize Park Forest, make it something that we can be proud of again. I have pride in my town. I don't know about you, but I have pride in my town, and that's the reason why I'm here running for trustee, is so that I can make a change and make a difference. There are a lot of people who complain and say, you know, this is what's wrong with Park Forest, this is what's wrong with the area, but I don't see them trying to do anything about it. I want to be that voice, and I want to be a catalyst between the board and the community. I see that it's a little miscommunication between the board and the community a little bit, and I want to be that voice to bring it back together. If you can allow me to utilize my leadership skills, I will do the best that I can to revitalize Park Forest.
Thank you. Mr. Kopasinski?
Thank you, Judge Funderburk. It's good to see you again. And welcome to everybody here today. We are above capacity, I think, and that's a good sign. I want to welcome my old friend Ken Kramer retired from the board. Ken, it's good to see you here. And Trustee Benita Dillard, thank you for showing up. And most of all, thank you all for being involved and letting your voice be heard. I have served on the village board since 2003, and I have enjoyed it. I enjoy the service to the village. Before that, I was on the Human Relations Commission. I am deeply, deeply involved in many of the decisions that we make on the board. I am looking forward to continuing to grow our businesses, continuing to grow grant funding, so that we don't have to raise our taxes to the degree that other communities have, or so that we don't have to cut services to the degree that other communities have. We are paying our bills. Some of our neighbors are having big problems, and it's through good fiscal management, conservative budgeting, that we have kept a close eye and are doing everything we can to make sure that every dollar that is spent by this village is spent for good reasons, to build Park Forest for the future. And I look forward to your questions today, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Georgia O'Neill.
Thank you, Judge. And next, I'd like to thank the Nonpartisan Committee and Park Forest Cooperatives for hosting this today, and also to those who are observing it either here or at home. I'm sorry if I'm going to read this, but I have a message I want to convey, so I don't want to, skip some words. I'm Georgia O'Neill, and most of you have already heard about my business and professional background. So I want to take this time to make some comments about what a trustee does. And by the way, I've been a trustee for 8.5 years, a Park Forest resident for 45 years. Sometimes people feel that we should know every technical detail about our village's operations, but a trustee's role is as follows. Trustees should have good communication skills and interpersonal skills. Trustees are leaders, policymakers, and visionaries. Trustees make decisions based upon information that the village's expert staff present to them. And I think trustees should have a good background knowledge of their village, but they do not need to know every technical detail because we have an expert staff and we rely on them to give us detailed reports on projects and performances. It is then our job to give guidance and feedback. I can honestly say that I have learned a lot in my time as trustee, and I hope that I can continue to learn about our village, its operations, its challenges and opportunities, and our diverse services and amenities. I will work alongside our village team to preserve those benefits, enabling our residents to enjoy Park Forest as a great place to live, grow, and discover. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderbilt.
Why am I running for village trustee? My son is a 5th-generation Park Forester. And when he turns 5, the house that my great-grandfather built in Apache, that's abandoned by the village for far too long, won't be there when he turns 5. That's why I'm running for Park Forest Village Trustee. I grew up here. I went to Huth. I went to Rich East. My wife went to Crete-Moni, to Lala. All these places, when you go down the streets, you see houses that are abandoned, foreclosed. I'm offering you solutions. Park Forest has solutions for abandoned properties that you see. You can start a community garden with your neighbors. You can start that garden and bring in those neighbors that are around you and work with them side by side and to learn who they are and to secure one another and to have a Park Forest police officer to be by your side working with you because they have the POP, the Police-Oriented Policing Program, and they'll be there by your side to help you. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about having a place where if you know there's someone on your block that has a house that's in blight, I'd like to start a neighborhood blight redevelopment initiative. It's where if you know your neighbor has a blighted house and they might not have enough money to start that project on the exterior of their house, to let you help them and maybe fill out a form. And that form would say, hey, I need this much money to start a project, and there could be a grant. And guess what? It's a fully funded initiative that I want to start. It's going to be through the video gaming fund that right now goes into sales tax. So this isn't an unfunded initiative that you're getting from the state. This is a fully funded initiative, something that we could work on to raise the housing stock in our neighborhood. Right now, you can get a house for $29,000 in Park Forest. I don't know about you, but that's 1969 housing level prices. If you bought a house after 1969, you've just lost money, and you will continue to lose money with depopulation in Park Forest. I have solutions.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to open up the forum for questions for the candidates for village trustee. As a reminder, you are given 45 seconds to ask your questions. Please do not make a statement. Please go directly to or proceed to any question that you have. And secondly, we'd like to limit the questions to Park Forest residents. So if you are in line and you are not a Park Forest resident, you will not be permitted to ask questions until all of the Park Forest residents have been given an opportunity to ask questions. And also, finally, there will be 6 questions only for candidates for trustee. We'll start with the first person. Sir, would you please, good afternoon, state your name, please, and your address.
My name is Andy Stevens. I live at 338 Merrimack. I'm concerned about the various underground oil pipelines and train lines that run through Park Forest and their safety and their condition and what the village can do to ensure the safety of those utilities.
I take it that the question is directed to all of the candidates.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll start with Ms. Brandon. Ms. Brandon?
Thank you for the question. The Village Public Works Department really does keep track of not only our line, water and sewer lines, but also the other lines that are going in. There are permits that have to be attained when there is any type of digging is going on. And so we do our best to, be responsible in terms of ensuring safety of you, our residents. There is a limit to what we can do in terms of someone else's. If we find that there is some danger in underlying lines or pipes or whatever it is, then and it's not ours, then of course we will notify those particular people, whether it's AT&T or NICOR or whoever the entity is. Typically, a lot of the underground wiring and pipes and things sort of run along the lines together. So while we are aware of much of the structure that has been put in, we're not totally aware of everything. This is one of the reasons that everyone is required to get a permit before you start digging, so that it's identified as to what that underground line or pipe might be. But of course, safety for all of our residents, safety for the village comes first.
Thank you. Ms. Graham?
While I am not yet on the board, I do know that this is an issue that a lot of Park Forest residents have, and I would like to find out a lot more information on this before I would like to speak to you on it, because I don't want to tell you, I don't want to run you in circles and tell you something that I don't know about. I do plan on finding out about it. What's your name again, sir?
Andy Stevens.
Andy Stevens. 338 Merrimack. Is that what you said? When I find out more information, I will direct this to you and let you communicate it to you. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Kopachinski.
Thank you, Mr. Stevens, for your question. This is something that I'm concerned about as well. Rosemary Pizer on E-News Park Forest publishes some excellent environmental articles in addition to many, many more, and photographs that we had permission to publish of rail disasters with oil. And I also published a map. Oh gosh, it was a link to a disaster map where you could see how far away you were from any rail line and what zone you might be in. On Ash Street, I live in the red zone, so that means evacuation for anything like that. As far as what the village can do, what the village does, our public works are always inspecting our well caps in case there is some kind of a disaster. We do have an oil line that runs under the, a big oil line that runs under the utility easement coming across 26th Street, going into the Forest Preserve, et cetera. There was precious little that we were able to say about that while it was happening. And we know from reports in other communities that the worst can and that the worst does happen. So it is something that we need to be mindful of and stay out in front of. I wish I had better news, except I know that our police have a disaster plan. It's just we don't want to see that disaster happen.
Thank you, Mr. Kopuscinski. Ms. O'Neill.
Yes, and Mr. Stevens, it's certainly easy to understand why there would be concern, and we are truly focusing, I'd say, primarily in just about every issue that we look at as safety. And I think that our Public Works Department is very knowledgeable and very on top of, I want to say, as far as location and condition of underground wiring and pipes. But, of course, we've all witnessed that there have been situations, and I'm not talking about in this situation with wiring and pipes, but there have been situations that were crisis, that were disaster, that you know, we may have had limits, and we hope that it doesn't get to that, that I'm sure they know what to do in most situations, but when it comes down to an actual disaster, I think I have to say that I have confidence that we have experts on staff and along with the leadership team that will come up with answers that are within our control, and there's the key, that are within our control. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderbilt.
Based on Baxter and Woodman's reports on our well systems, here's both of them, so you know where I'm getting my information from. Well number 1 is on Well Court, just east of EJ&E Railroad. Well number 2, east of Railroad, next to Algonquin School. Well number 3 is at the filtration plant, next to the railroad line. Well number 5, Western Avenue, which, by the way, is next to the brand new kennel. So if you have a dog, go in and see them. The plant is just south of the kennel. If we have a derailment, we're going to be in some serious trouble. The one good thing, though, is that each well has its own pipeline directly to the well system. So they would be able to shut off each well in case of a disaster, hopefully. I know that the fire department has worked with other communities and Canadian National. I don't know if they've done it in Park Forest, but they have done rescues and derailments before. But for our water, that's a serious concern. And also, the wellhead and reserves are at the water plant, which are just south of the railroad line. And we haven't even seen the maximum output of railroads to come through our community yet. All right? There's going to be at least another 10 trains a day. And so we got to realize this now. What the good thing is we have good wellhead protections over our reservoirs. One of the things, though, that I'd like to do is give you a solution, though, that you have not heard from a sitting trustee or any candidates. And I want to actually be able to use our water. Right now, we're only using a quarter of our maximum output of water consumption. Now, I don't want to go anywhere near our maximum output, but if we would at least use half of what we're putting out now, we could be having free water in the next 4 years to Park Forest residents if we would bottle our water. We even have a maker's lab that our village president just got us. We could design biodegradable bottles. Right now, there's companies that, once they're in the soil, degrade within 27 days. We could design that in Park Forest and even make copyrights off of that.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Vanderbilt.
Patent rights. Thank you.
Ma'am, good afternoon. Your name, please?
Sheila Watson. I live at 104 Hemlock Street.
Thank you.
My question is, what is the trustees going to do about helping preserve our forest preserve? Because it looks hideous. All of the dead trees, branches. I would never walk through this forest preserve, and I'm new to the community.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
We'll start this round with Ms. Graham, Tiffany Graham.
Well, as a trustee, I would like to explore talking to the Forest Preserve. I'm pretty sure they have a committee that goes through and does the work for the Forest Preserve. I'm not sure if the village does the work for the Forest Preserve because, like I said, I'm not on the board as of yet. But if I am elected on the board, I would like to talk to the Forest Preserve to see what kind of steps that they can take to preserve our Forest Preserve, because I would like to go into our Forest Preserve, but as you said, I don't go into Forest Preserve myself. I just don't feel it's safe. So I would like to explore other avenues of making our Forest Preserve safe and preserving it.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Mr. Kowasinski?
Thank you, Judge Funderburk. I know I believe there is still a Sunday group that runs through the Forest Preserve. Is that correct, Your Honor?
There is.
You don't have to answer that.
Headstone is here.
And Ted is here. So they set off at 8 a.m. Every Sunday morning from Chestnut Street. We have advocated with the Forest Preserve District in the past. I did that myself through Cook County commissioners in the past, and they did eventually come through and replace the paths or much of the pathway. As far as trees falling, branches, etc., that is a constant. So if you see anything, there is a number for the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. If there is a large tree that falls and completely blocks a path, they will come out and remove that. But it is the Forest Preserve District of Cook County. The most that we can do is advocate. We are hoping to advocate for a more presentable entryway on the north end of the Forest Preserve by Sauk Lake, so that residents from Eastgate, residents from the co-ops, et cetera, would feel more comfortable. Right now, there's a small path that comes up from the street, and we would like to see something like an official entrance that kind of opens its arms and welcomes bikers, runners, et cetera.
Thank you, Mr. Kopaczynski. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes, Ms. Watson, I don't know where you are. Okay, there you are. Okay, yeah. And I understand that there are some, I have heard in our meetings and discussions, there are some actions that are being taken, but obviously you have some concerns that should be addressed. And the only thing I can say to you, because I don't want to get specific about the actions and I don't want to get specific about your concerns, but there are two venues that you can take advantage of where you can have further discussion with the village, with the board on this. And one is on the first Saturday of every month. We have meetings where the sole purpose is for residents to come express their concerns. And that would be a great opportunity to have further discussion on this. Also, a more formal opportunity is at our village board meetings, where you can, at the appropriate meeting, you can get up and express your concern. So I would encourage you to do, but I would say in particular the first Saturday of every month, and there's one coming up, and I think it's April 4th, I believe, if I'm right about that being the first. But take advantage of that, because I would like to hear more of that, your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderbilt.
Ms. Watson, are you talking about Old Plank Trail or the Sauk Lake Trail around the lake? Both of them. Great, because both need help.
Yes.
I agree. I've ridden in the past from Old Plank Trail through Park Forest, through Eastgate, there's no path on 26th Street, and we've got no help from the village on that because they keep telling us that it's somebody else's problem. And we've recently had a death there, even though it was, DUI, we still could had something there for somebody to walk on. I've ridden my bike with my wife up that hill and down that hill, dodging the vehicles, making sure there's no vehicles. And I will take my son up and around that lake. Now, my wife doing it by herself, that's a different story. I wouldn't let her do that anywhere. But I've been around that trail, and I can tell you there are lots of families that are on Sauk Lake and on Old Plank Trail. Now, I've recently been past Old Plank Trail, and if you noticed, the village next door to us got on board, even though they have no money. They've cut down all the trees that are low shrubs, and that helps those big trees grow and mature. And as they grow and mature, you get those nice, strong branches that in a storm won't flake over, fall on you, and then there's more work. We could be doing that right now at Old Plank Trail, yet the village leaves it as a blight, and no one wants to go through that part. I know people in Frankfort, New Lenox, Frankfort, or even Madison. I don't want to go all the way down through there. You can't see any of the houses can't see the trails. And we could be doing that. We could cut down the smaller trees and make a better path. Now, for Thorn Creek Forest Preserve, there is no reason why we couldn't have something like Olympia Fields has and Homewood Flossmoor to have some type of area where the youth can come into Thorn Creek and have the Nature Preserve Center and bring them in, because they need help. That nature center is going to be gone. And it's getting old, and it's not getting the work it needs. And the Friends of Thorn Creek need help with rebuilding that thing. The money's to fund that. We could be having a nice walkway path through there right now. The walkers walk through mud and rain to round their paths to get there. Let's give them a nice path to set up.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderbilt. Ms. Brendan?
Thank you. And thank you for your question. I agree that is something that we do need to look further into. The forest preserves, both in Will County and Cook County, are forest preserve properties. I live in the back of one of them. And I grew riding and taking my kids through the forest preserves for walks and runs and things like that. I know that there is currently the Cook County Forest Preserve is really developing a plan that will upgrade their forest preserves so that there is more activity, more use of them, and not just letting them sort of fall apart. And I agree with you. I ride by and I see fallen trees, and I wonder that there is something that perhaps they do need to be doing more of. But I think it's something that we can do intergovernmentally. You know, we can look at a way if there's something we can do together between the Forest Preserve and the village. So that I think that is, in terms of Thorn Creek Nature Center, the Friends of Thorn Creek, like many other kind of civic organizations, do need help. There are still programs that are going on in the Thorn Creek Nature Center. I bet many people don't even know it's down there, but it's a beautiful place. So it does need help. It does need some work. Boy Scouts have taken on some of it as projects to help rebuild some of the bridges and the pathways. But it's something that we have to do together, too. So we need to hear from you, as we're doing right now, but not just at the forums, but on a continuous basis. As Trustee Candidate O'Neill said, you know, there are times that we are available to hear that. So please make use of that, and thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. We'll continue with our questioning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me remind you that this is question number 3, and our questions are going to be limited in number to 6 questions for the candidates for trustee. Sir, good afternoon. Your name, please.
Yes, my name is Andrew DeCosmo, 81 North Orchard Drive. This question is directed towards incumbent Gary Kopachinski, but I encourage other candidates to make a rebuttal. Gary, since you've been a trustee of Park Forest, you started a small newspaper that focuses primarily on your political agenda. In 2013, your newspaper influenced the voters of Park Forest to vote for 2 of 3 candidates which were elected. In this current election, you try to sabotage the mayor race by writing awful articles about your colleague on another website.
All right, sir, we have your statement, but I'd like for you to get to your question.
Okay.
You have 45 seconds to ask your question.
Yep. On the other hand, you sent a $300 invoice to Mr. Vanderbilt for using a photo that you took of him to endorse him in 2003. As a current trustee...
Thank you. Mr. Kopachinski, did you get the question?
Oh, I got it.
All righty. The question was directed to you, and all of the candidates will have an opportunity to respond if they wish. Mr. Kopachinski.
Go. I noticed that Mr. Vanderbilt was using a photograph that I had taken 2 years ago on his campaign website. On February 12th, I advised him to remove that photograph, that it was not being used with permission. We were not asked.
You'll be given an opportunity to respond, sir.
A month went by, and the photograph was still up on the website. It's a simple matter of business. I spoke with some journalists, a group called Lion, Local Independent Online News, and followed advice that is pretty clear in the industry. There was a time when we were publishing, Rosemary had permission to publish 99% articles, if you remember the 99% marches. We heard from one photographer who said that her photograph ended up on a 99% blog without her permission. It ended up on our site, so I immediately removed it. There was another article written out of Alaska that was in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, a commentary, and I wrote to the author asking her permission, and she gave permission, and then she found out she didn't have permission because once she published in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, she lost ownership of the article. It's pretty clear in the business world that you cannot steal things online, and I did invoice, and I don't even use my photographs for e-news for my campaign.
Thank you, Mr. Kopachinski. Now, each candidate, as I've indicated, will have an opportunity to respond. Ms. O'Neill, would you like to respond?
No, I wouldn't.
Mr. Vanderbilt, would you like
her time to finish the question?
Mr. Vanderbilt,
you can use the time to finish.
No, just for a moment, sir. Mr. Vanderbilt, if you'd like to respond, you may do so now.
Why is he not able to finish the question?
We got the question.
Okay, all right. Can he use my time?
No, sir.
He can't use my time to answer the question.
Sir, I think I've answered your question. Okay. If you'd like to respond, Mr. Vanderbilt, you now have the opportunity to do so.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Didn't mean to cause confusion. There was just more to that question than that.
There was a statement component of the question. You have the opportunity to respond if you wish, sir.
I was just responding. I would like to say is that question wasn't fully finished, and it wasn't just about me, but it was about the tactics that he uses on his Turning Left webpage that's directly tied to him and the negative things he uses towards the village. But I'm just going to focus on me right now. In 2013, I did use a photograph that he took of me shaking another gentleman's hand that's here right now in the village, right now with us. And I did he did take my photograph, and he did not ask my permission at the time to use it, and it was during a nonpartisan forum in 2013. I used that picture my entire election when he wasn't running for office. And now, a month before the elections, he wants to give me a $300 invoice after I already removed the picture upon request. And yes, it did take some time because I am not the one who runs my website completely. And so I did notify my person who runs it, notified him right away and let him know it had to come down. And he was out of town in Florida, and he did remove it upon coming back into town. And yet I got a month, it was actually about 2 weeks later, which is now when I got the invoice on Friday before this forum. That's what the question is about, all the negativity. And I understand, yes, I did copyright. And immediately, as soon as you told me, I notified someone and I tried to remove it. And I told you that. And I even asked you right before this forum, do you really want to charge me $300? And I tried to reach out and shake your hand, and you walked away from me. And this is the negativity that we're talking about in Park Forest with E-News. I know personally about it. But listen, there are ways to save Park Forest. And let's just get rid of the negativity issues and the invoices that I was just charged. There are ways that we could be saving money in Park Forest for residences. There are things we could be doing to help with the blighted neighborhoods in our community, with the blighted houses, to start a redevelopment initiative. One of the things I'm working on, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brandon, would you care to respond?
No, I think that's Mr. Kopachinski's business, so no, I do not.
Ms. Grimm, would you care to respond?
I would like to take my 2 minutes and to let you guys know I'm part of the Rotary Club of Park Forest, and one of the things that we do is we have a 4-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, is it beneficial to all concerned? Other than that, I can't say anything else.
Thank you. We'll move now to our next question. This is question number 4, ladies and gentlemen, for your information. Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, my name is John Lester. I live in Area J, and I'm going to ask a question.
What is your address in Area J?
192 Park Street.
Thank you very much, sir.
The question I have is regarding residence requirement for policemen. I'd like to know, do the members know how many people we have on the police department, how many of them live as a resident of Park Forest, and the insurance that we carry on the policemen, is it a different whether you're a resident or not? And by the way, I was one of the trustees just made this notice that they do make policy, and this is a policy decision.
So have you completed your question?
The policy, would this board take up the policy of making policemen be a resident of Park Forest?
Thank you, Mr. Lester.
That's a policy question.
Ms. O'Neill, you may respond if you wish, or answer the question if you wish, rather.
Thank you. I think that whole topic is like an onion, and there's so many layers to it. I think as far as how many police, I believe, I'm not sure the exact number. I think it's around 50, give or take. I asked that question at one of our meetings, and I think, actually it was a small meeting, and it wasn't a board meeting. And there wasn't an exact number there, so we'll get that. As far as the residents, we've talked about this a lot, and it's again back to that onion thing, and it's back to I know I've heard it said that because we have houses that are vacant, we should make them available to the police, so that we have police that live within our town. But there's the good and the bad of that. I feel pretty strongly that the way it works, it seems to work. I mean, I guess coming from another committee where one of the sayings is, if it works, don't fix it. And I actually feel it works. I'm sure that there's many people out there that can come up with opinions on why it doesn't work. I think We have one of the best police force I know. I have a daughter who's chaplain of the Lamont Police, and I was with them all last night. And they're all fine people, but I'm just very, very proud of our police. I wouldn't, at this point, I would certainly look into further discussion on this, but as I've heard up to this point, if it works, don't fix it.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderbilt.
There are 41 sworn-in police officers as of the 2014-2015 budget. It might have increased with the 2 recent sworn-ins. 9 civilians, and we also have part-time and seasonals that do the PAC program during the summer that are actually now hiring for teens or young adults. If you're looking for a job, they're actually hiring right now for PAC program during the summer, so get into that. Then for the police and fire, I'm not exactly sure. I have it looked up right here, but there's 3 platoons that work 24 hours on-duty services. Both have separate insurance liability coverages. Both are separate insurance identities. I'm not sure if that's law, but I believe that's law, but that's something that I need to look into if I'm elected village trustee. I haven't looked in that far. I can only do so much research. But I will know and try to know as much as I can about the village so that when we are asked these questions, I'd be available. But with there's 2 separate entities, and the all-around together, it's a pretty good chunk of money. I couldn't exactly look it up in time, but there is a nice chunk that goes to the insurances, that coverage for both fire and police. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Brandon?
Thank you. That is a question that has come up before, and there are pros and cons. We are currently doing a recruitment for both fire and policemen. And in terms of housing, yes, there was a time where we did offer, encourage policemen to live within the communities so that they could get to know the communities. When you limit it just to residents, then you're also limiting your pool of applicants. And one of the things that we do strive to have is a well-rounded pool of applicants. We want the best to serve us in terms of both police and fire. There's another issue regarding that I can't right now, escapes me. But currently, no, you are not required to be a resident. And as far as the insurances, both police and fire have our contracts, separate contracts. Whether you are a resident or not, you have the same contract that covers your pay scale, your insurance. We don't, we're not going to penalize someone because you're not a resident. What we ask of all of our policemen, whether you're residents or not, is to be the best and to serve the community to best to help keep our community safe. And I'm very proud of the police and fire that we've had, that we have currently, and look forward to the possible recruiting that continues. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Graham?
Currently, I believe we have around 45 officers that are on active duty. I like the questions on the card so we can go back and... But I do remember that you did say that you wanted to know if the policy about the police living in the village is something that I would support as a trustee, and as a candidate, I would like to find out some more information, because I believe that there are pros and cons for having the police living here. One of the things that I am uncomfortable about is if the police officer lives in the neighborhood and he's constantly getting people are constantly getting arrested, I have concern that our police officer would be constantly harassed, or their child might be harassed in school. So that's my only concern about having the police living in our neighborhood.
Thank you. Mr. Kopasinski.
Thank you, Judge. I think this is a matter for police and fire negotiations. I know for a fact that there have been instances where our officers have been threatened and have been told in no uncertain terms, I know where you live. And I think that this is a matter for each individual family working for the village to make that decision for themselves. I'm very happy that we do have officers, fire personnel who live in town, but that is a judgment that they need to make, and it's not the people of Park Forest necessarily. It's some of the bad people who unfortunately they have to deal with from time to time. And so I would want to see the safety of the officer and his or her family first. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue with our questioning. Ladies and gentlemen, this is question number 5 out of 6. Next person, please. Good afternoon, sir.
How you doing?
Your name, please, and address.
Sammy Parr, 33 Money Road.
Thank you.
Okay, my question is, what plans do the board have as far as bringing new businesses?
I don't know if everyone can hear you, sir.
What is the plan the trustees have as far as bringing new businesses to combat the high taxes that property owners share in this city?
Thank you. We'll start first with Mr. Vanderbilt. Mr. Vanderbilt.
One of the things that I've been working on since 2006, when I first came home from college and realized that businesses were leaving our town and they were leaving quickly along with our residences, and that depopulation has now hurt us because now we don't have as much income base, especially when the poverty level of Park Forest is around 28% and the unemployment rate is still one of the highest in the south suburbs. So the things that I'd like to work on is, one, offer solutions to the tax base currently, which is you, the residences. I'd like to use some of our unused water, bottle it, and sell it, and to offset that cost to us as residents. Now, area co-ops need to recognize this too, because these co-ops, you're taking over your water mains, as you should, because it's on your land, and that's only fair. And Area B has stepped up and taken over our water mains. But co-ops in general need to step up and take their water mains, and there's 2 left that haven't. But co-ops, that's going to be $1.25 million a mile that you're going to have to take over as a cooperative. Who's that going to come down to from the cooperative? Are they going to pass it off? Only to you as the residents. And that means not only you're going to get higher levels for your membership fees are going to go up, but now your taxes are going to go up because now Park Forest has a takeover of the water infrastructure fees that are going to go up. And your taxes, have gone up. Your water bills, don't have it in front of you, but have gone up a huge amount. And in 2017, if depopulation continues to happen in Park Forest, they're only going to go higher. So I'm trying to offer solutions to you as the cooperatives that you need to realize that $1.2 million a mile is going to get pushed onto you now that you've taken over rightfully what's yours and ours. And we have to come up with a solution that we won't be taxed as the tax base. Our membership fees won't go up. And as more people leave, it's going to hurt us because that means that there's less people to tax. And it's only going to go up, especially now that the state's going to reduce our income levels by $1 million. That $1 million is going to hurt too.
Thank you, Mr. Vanderbilt. Ms. Brandon.
Thank you. That is a constant ongoing question. What is it that we can do to encourage more economic development? We are in a position of our location whereby we have, in terms of the developers and the retailers, that we don't meet their numbers. They do things like number counts along main highways. Our primary highways are Western Avenue, Sauk Trail, and Orchard, none of which are very set up to be zoned for industrial and retail. However, that doesn't mean that we don't stop working. And any time I I get around the community, not just the community, but the area, and I have contacts with the people. And when I see something I think that might be a good fit for Park Forest, because that's what we have to consider, a good fit for Park Forest, then that particular person or company, I will encourage them to come and talk to our Economic Development Department. Our staff is always out there looking. They go to various conventions and things like that. But I think you have to help us. You know, we have now a grocery store, but if you do not help us, it's not going to succeed. There have been businesses that have come and gone. Now, why that's been is for various reasons. But when new businesses come into town and notices go out about them, it's our responsibility individually to go check that business out, to welcome them, and then to, go there first instead of to Orland and across the Harlem Avenue. Shop here first. Proving that you shop here first, then that will encourage businesses to come to us, because then they can say, look, we support the businesses that come to our town.
Thank you, Ms. Brandon. Ms. Graham.
As the vice president of a small business that's been in business in Park Forest for over 30 years, I would like to emphasize shop locally. That's first and foremost what we can do is shop locally. We lose stores because we don't go in them and we don't shop in them. You guys, well, I don't want to say you guys, but the community complains that we don't have resources, and we do. We have a lot of resources. We just need to utilize them, and we'll get more if we utilize the ones that we have now. Go to the grocery store. Go to Country Squire. I go to Country Squire before I go anywhere else. I go to Country Squire and make sure that it's not something that I can get in my community. People say that the prices are a little bit more than they are down the street. Okay, that's gas money that you're spending to go down the street, and you could use it right here in the grocery store. I spoke to our village manager recently about lowering our property taxes, and he said that there are ways for us to lower our property taxes, and I would like to have more conversations with him about that and explore different ways that we can lower our taxes, and just to make sure that in lowering the property taxes, we're not going to raise the residential taxes.
Thank you. Mr. Kopasinski.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do have a business. We focus on local advertising as much as we can. I can't agree with the depopulation of Park Forest, that people are moving out left and right. NIPSI still sees growth for us, and I believe we are going to see more growth. Mr. Jabber at the Country Squire is a very patient man, and he's told me that the idea is not to grow too quickly, and he wants to make sure that he can operate, that he can keep operations going, funding operations, and grow in the process. I do like the grocery store. I like the counter in the front with the chicken, and the vegetables. And this morning after Mass, I decided to give a try with Johnny's. I've been there before, but I took home a feta and spinach omelet and a couple of pancakes, and they're very nice. They're very nice. The the service is very quick. And it's that kind of synergy as we plant ourselves here and decide I'm going to buy what I need in town. That's gonna draw other businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Kopachinski. Ms. O'Neill.
Yes, this topic, as much as it comes up, is really about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the good, we have so many amenities in Park Forest. There's so many riches that we have, our people, our diversity. And I think prospective businesses see that. However, the bad is that we are location poor as far as major highways, access. The other bad, the ugly, is the taxes. So those are things, that are the location, the taxes are out of our control. But I have the interesting perspective of, because I was with the Chamber of Commerce for 22 years, I surely was exposed to a lot of economic development issues. And now I'm blessed because I'm the trustee liaison with the Economic Development Advisory Group. And I can tell you that it is probably, I want to say, our economic development team, I think they go to bed thinking about ways to increase our, the number of businesses. And I sit in at those meetings and we have good plans. As far as shopping local, it's just a matter, it really is, and I'm guilty of it sometimes, but I'm getting better. It's just a matter of retraining our habits. Before we had the grocery store, I had a pattern of going somewhere else. So now I'm correcting that pattern, and I stop in at our grocery store. So it is something that I am convinced is almost at the top of the list of the issues that this town looks at. But we do need your help. We do need your help to shop local. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue now with our questioning. This would be question number 6, our 6th and final question.
Okay, I'm Joseph Carroll, and I live 265 Rich Road. And there's been rumors that the board was trying to replace the village manager. I would like to know, what do you feel the role of the village manager is and the board?
This is a question for all of the candidates. Thank you. We'll start first with Ms. Brandon.
The role of the village manager is to operate our village on a day-to-day basis. That relationship, in terms of the board is the one who decides upon the village manager. He serves because of the board. So when we are looking at, and we provide him with yearly evaluations or performance appraisals. We look at all aspects of performance in terms of how well the goals and strategic planning things that we've set up, the policies, how well they're followed through. And that's not just, he's responsible for every department. So he is responsible for reporting to us what's going on and following through with the strategies that the board has put together. So that's a big job. And I have to say that we have, as far as I'm concerned, the best village manager there is in the south suburbs, and actually in quite a large area. Other communities have asked for his help in consulting in terms of how to handle particular issues. He's on top of everything. When we do his performance appraisal, not only do we tell him how we think he's performed, he tells us also how he thinks he's performed, and he has outlined each and every item in terms of what we have set up in terms of goals and objectives for that particular year. So, yeah, we hire him.
Thank you. Ms. Graham.
I'm a little biased on this subject because like Ms. Brandon said, I believe that we have an excellent village manager. He is like she said, he's over pretty much all of Park Forest. He does more. Actually, he does more than the trustees do. The trustees are over him, and he is over. This is the organizational chart for what he does, and this is awesome. This is what he does on a day-to-day basis. Anything that happens in the village, he's on it. I've called him before and said, "Hey, Tom, there's police down the street from my house. What's going on?" And he already knows. He already knows exactly what's happening, and there's a solution in place already minutes after my phone call. I was actually on Salmonok at an appointment one time, and it had just snowed tremendous. It was like at least, I don't know, I think they said it was 19 inches of snow that came in that night. And I got on the phone and I called Tom and I said, "Hey, these streets are still, they still look really bad." And, the people that were on the street, we were digging our cars out. Everybody was helping everybody. And all of a sudden, here comes the Park Forest Public Works, and they're clearing the streets out. This happened within minutes of me talking to our village manager. There's nothing else that I can personally say besides the fact that I think that we did a good job in hiring our village manager.
Thank you. Mr. Kopasinski.
Thank you, Your Honor. In addition to other things that were described as far as what the manager does, the manager is able to spend up to $20,000 at his discretion if an item is approaching $20,000. He will bring that to us anyhow for our approval. Tom is exceptional, professional, and ethical. And I think I heard something in that question that there's a rumor we're thinking about replacing. Was that part of the question? I haven't heard that at all from any sitting board members. If you are hearing that from somebody, then that is simply not the case. And I would question the veracity of I would seriously question the veracity of a statement like that. We evaluate Mr. Mick annually. He's generally unhappy if he gets a perfect score. He wants to hear more suggestions. What can he do better? And I honestly, he is, I would say, perfectly suited to do what he is doing for the citizens, for the staff, for the board, and I'm very proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill?
Yes, again, I have an interesting perspective on this because I was in that position, that type of position with the Chamber of Commerce. I had that, and I thought I did a good job until I met Tom. And I chaired his evaluation committee this year, and I'll tell you, it was the easiest committee I've ever chaired. It was a walk in the park because I think we're all on board with this. And some of the areas in which he was evaluated that he scored very high were communications and customer service. There are more, but those are the two that I feel Tom never misses an opportunity to communicate with us. If there's a problem in the area, if there's a meeting, and we know we're going to get a call. Now, he is and this was my write-up when I was in that kind of position, he is in charge of daily operations of the village. And with a 200-plus staff, that's immense. I honestly don't know how he does what he does. I've thought about it sometimes. And yet he does it very professionally. So yes, I agree that I'm across the board, I'm pleased with our staff. Every opportunity I get to work with someone through either the Economic Development Advisory Group, they're very professional, and they act like a family, and Tom does that. So yeah, we did good, and I hope he's going to be with us for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Vanderbilt.
The village manager is the CEO and the board is his boss. It would take a majority vote to remove him from office, and I would not do that if elected. His staff from the top down have done an excellent job and follow his lead as a leader and have done a great job. And I've thanked him also for his service as a Marine and has really changed the way that this room is now set up because of his vision to focus on the servicemen and women in our country. And I can't believe that the village trustees and president would even consider this, but I don't know. What I do like to do is, last form I did mess up a few numbers. I said the library was operating was under budget, and they are not. That is something that I've looked up. What I meant to say, though, is that attendance is at its second lowest since 2004. And that we've lost half of our collection in the library since 2004, and the library is in bad shape too. And we need to help the library. This is just another building that we need to keep doing maintenance on, as is the Aqua Center. And recently, we were given a letter by our village mayor that said, based on Governor Rauner's proposal, that the $1 million loss to Park Forest finances would mean three things. Residents would have a form of tax hikes, programs and services would be cut, like the Park Forest Aqua Center, the nurses plus the Performing Arts Center, and potentially even fire and police services would be on the chopping block. And some sort of tax increase and a cut in programs and services is what they're looking at. They don't give you a solution, though, to the mayor's problems. And as cooperatives, this means even more hurt to you and your membership fees and overall to us as residents. You know, we need to start looking at solutions as a board to help our residents, to make people want to move into Park Forest. If the highway doesn't come in, if the airport doesn't come in, we're going to be in trouble, because that's what all these numbers for future projections are based on, are those developments to happen. And right now, they're on hold.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our question sessions for the trustee candidates. I'm going to ask that you hold your applause, and we'll give each candidate an opportunity to present or make a closing statement. We'll proceed in alphabetical order, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to present a closing statement. Ms. Brandon.
Again, thank you to the Nonpartisan Committee for a wonderful job that you've done. Thank you to all of you and to all of those who've come at the other forums, as well as to all of those who watch. And I understand it's on YouTube, so people have been able to check it out on there. I love Park Forest. There have been several opportunities that I've had to be able to move someplace else. But each time I've said, why? Yes, you know, we hear that there are so many bad things that are going on. You know, we're losing population. We don't have this and we don't have that. I think we have plenty here. We don't have, yes, in comparison to what used to be, but times have changed. If any time you go back to look at what used to be, it isn't the same. So I'm not for going back. I think you look at what was and you cherish it and you move on. And I am for helping us to move on. And one of those things is moving on is that we continue with our financial stability. That has helped us. Other larger communities have had difficulties. We are very fiscally responsible, and if we continue to look at that, even though we know that there are cuts coming down the road that will impact us, then we will continue to be the kind of place that you and I both want to live in. We will continue to be the kind of place that will be safe, and you'll love calling it home. And we'll work on making it better and looking for a new future for Park Forest. So that's my commitment to you, is to helping us get to the new future of Park Forest. So I ask for your vote on April the 7th, and remember that you can begin to vote tomorrow, March the 23rd, up through April the 4th. And thank you for having your confidence in me so that I've been able to serve you up until this point.
Thank you. Ms. Graham?
Thank you, Judge Funderburk. I appreciate you being a very wonderful moderator. And thank you to the Nonpartisan Committee for putting this together, as well as Area J for is it Area J? Area J for hosting. And I would also like to thank all of you all for being here and staying awake during this candidate forum. I do appreciate the interesting questions that you guys have asked. I did write down a lot of the questions so that I can come up with better answers for you. And these will be delivered to your home personally, because I did write down your address and your name. As a member of the Youth Commission, I've been a part of a dynamic team that has put together several youth days, but one of the things that I'm most proud of is that we brought back the Park Forest Carnival. In working the entire carnival, I found that there were a lot of people from different neighborhoods that surround us, and they were like, wow, I didn't know that you guys had this in Park Forest. I didn't know that you had this in Park Forest. And it was amazing to me to see, because like I said, I've grown up here my entire life, and one of the most exciting things that we did have was the carnival, the pizzazz, things to get the community together. We need to go back to doing things like that. The carnival brought in over $19,000 last year, and with that money, we did Youth Day. We've partnered with Teen Zone, and Teen Zone actually has Hire a Teen program. You can call Adina McCullough at 708-283-5663 if you need a teen to do any work for you. I think that's a dynamic thing that we have in Park Forest.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Mr. Kopasinski.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you to the Park Forest Cooperatives, to the Nonpartisan Committee for hosting and sponsoring this event. I am Gary Kopaczynski, and I humbly ask for your vote on April 7th. I have served the Village of Park Forest since I moved here on the Human Relations Commission, and then I ran first for the Village Board in 2003. I love Park Forest. It reminds me, it's as close as I can get out here, to Pittsburgh, with the curved streets. I am not a fan of the grid, and the character of the homes, the character of the individuals, the neighborhoods is something that I enjoy. I raised my son here. Now my dogs are raising me. And I look forward to serving you more. Believe it or not, I look forward to the long marathon meetings that are coming up in May with the budget hearings. I look forward to thinking through the budget line by line by line, to making my suggestions and giving my ideas, and I promise you my ideas do not come out of left field, but are the result of thoughtfulness And that is what I hope to continue to provide for you and the people in the village. My name is Gary Kopachinski, and I humbly ask for your vote for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Neill, you have the opportunity now for a 2-minute closing statement.
Yes, thank you again to the hosts of the forum, and thank you for everyone that came to it and everyone that's watching, and thanks to Judge Funderburk for moderating. In my opening statement, I talked about what a trustee does, so now I want to tell you why you should vote for me. I possess the qualifications that I stated previously in regard to what constitutes a good trustee. There were times during my 8.5 years as trustee that I had personal challenges because I suffered several major losses in my family. In fact, over a 10-year period, I lost my dad, my husband, my brother, and my son-in-law. And those of you who have lost someone dear to you know how it can become hard sometimes to focus. But I still gave much of my time, talents, and energy over these last years to fulfill my trustee role, attending as many meetings and events as I physically could. So my purpose in revealing all of this to you is to say thank you for electing me to this position, because it means so much to me to be able to serve you in this capacity. And if you re-elect me, I am determined to serve the people of Park Forest with every possible opportunity to continue being a good trustee. I am dedicated, loyal, and passionate about Park Forest. My family and I have served this village for nearly 45 years, and even though I have suffered losses in my family, I am blessed with wonderful children and grandchildren. In fact, I just found out that our family is going to have a new addition this August. I have a good feeling about our village's direction and future, and I would be honored to be a part of that. So please vote for Georgia O'Neill on April 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give all of our candidates a rousing... Oh, I'm sorry. No. Please. My bad. Mr. Vanderbilt, you have an opportunity now for a 2-minute...
I even wrote a joke in here. Thank you to Judge Funderburk for laying the law on me, but man, now...
Sorry.
Thank you to the Non-Partisan League of Local Government for their hard work throughout this election, for their equity and fairness that they bring to Park Forest election process that you don't get in other towns. And working on the board, I realize that, and thank you. Park Forest is a great community to live, grow, and discover, but recent times have been tough on the village. And though we're doing better, we've done better than some of our other communities, we can do better. If elected, I will work to continue on some of the issues facing the village by continuing the village sustainability plan. Like I already started a community garden, one of the poorest communities in our neighborhood that have been neglected by our board. I'd like to I'm working with the Park Forest Garden Club, hopefully, and the Park Forest Garden Commission to work with Rich East High School, because they now want to start a community garden inside of the school and the open grounds there, and then also build a greenhouse. I think we've got potential there to really connect the community to the school, to Rich East, one of the foundations of Park Forest. I want to improve the tax burden on residents by bottling our unused water and selling it. I want to lower the crime rate in Park Forest by introducing a bicycle squad, a bicycle group that would go around the parks and go around the trains in the morning where we've seen some of the crimes lately being committed, and have them on patrol right there. And being on bikes, they'll be more excessive through the park systems. I'd like to encourage civic duty by creating an online gaming platform in which we would be able to encourage residents as they come on to this platform, as they say, hey, I like Park Forest because I go to the Aqua Center. And you get points online for this. And right now, there's 2 articles that have really started to come out. We've seen communities really go out on this, and they've seen a great involvement. Orland Park had it open for 1 week and had 1,000 volunteers line up immediately. Time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a rousing applause to all of our candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to again remind you that early voting begins on March 23rd. to April 4th here at Village Hall. Election Day is Tuesday, April 4th. Strike that, Tuesday, April 7th. Let me correct myself. Tuesday, April 7th is Election Day. Please vote for the candidates of your choice. That concludes this portion of our forum, ladies and gentlemen. We'll now be bringing up our candidates for village mayor. I have to check with the nonpartisan committee. Do we have a moment for a break, or do we do? So we'll take a short break, ladies and gentlemen, while we bring up the candidates for village mayor.
Please visit John Vanderbilt if you have any more information or questions.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations. Good luck to you.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yes, ma'am. JohnVanderbilt.com.
Okay.
JohnVanderbilt.com.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Jon.
Okay.
You have a real problem with that. It's hard to get you here.
Really? I can get on my phone.
I've tried several times.
Really? I can get it on my phone. I just had somebody pull it up right now at church.
You can, I can.
Okay. All right, I'll look into that. I'll look into that. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we can have you to take your seats, please, so that we can reconvene. Please take your seats so that we may reconvene. Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready now to start. We are ready to reconvene. Please take your seats.
You can go anywhere you want after me.
Clarence, I need your help.
Use the gavel.
Oh.
That's what I do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now 1 minute after 3 p.m., 3 o'clock. We're going to start now and reconvene with our forum, with our candidates for village trustee.
No.
Candidates for village president. Yeah. Correct it again. All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there was a question as to who will start first, and whomever starts first will have the opportunity to go last to close with a closing statement. So, we had a very scientific method of determining who will go first. We flipped the coin. Mr. Ostenberg will go first. We have two candidates, ladies and gentlemen, for village president. Ladies and gentlemen, with respect to the questions that will be asked of the village candidates for village president, we have 9 questions that will be asked. There will be 9 questions only asked of the candidates for village president. And once we have the 9 questions, we'll then cut off the question session, and we will then have each candidate to present a closing statement. Let me say, with respect to the candidates for village trustee, there are 5 candidates running for village trustee, and there are 3 seats for which the 5 candidates are running for. It's my understanding that a question was asked as to how many candidates were running for how many seats. So to answer that question and to clarify, hopefully, there are 5 candidates running for village trustee, and there are 3 seats for which they are running. Now, we're going to start with an opening statement by each candidate for village president. And again, our scientific method determined that Mr. Ostenberg will go first with a 2-minute opening statement. Mr. Ostenberg, good afternoon, sir.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you to the Non-Partisan Committee and to the co-ops for sponsoring this event. I always think of these campaign events as being the opportunity actually to address issues that I think are on the minds of the public. So I want to do that in my opening statement with one topic that I think is pretty hot in our community, and that relates to housing, because housing issues affect our community tremendously. When we talk about high property taxes, part of that is due to the fact that we've had so many homes fall off the tax rolls. So what's the situation with housing in the Village of Park Forest? Well, first of all, I think we all have to realize that the Village of Park Forest did not create this problem. I mean, this problem was created by banks that made bad loans, that did not handle the administration of those loans properly. It all started back in about 2008. We got hit particularly hard beginning in 2009. We had 700 homes in the Village of Park Forest going to foreclosure. And we're not unique. I mean, the same thing is true in other areas of the south suburbs, and that's one of the reasons why the south suburbs as a block is suffering as much as it is, because even communities that have had a lot of commercial activity, you read the newspaper, you know that they're suffering also. So it's a regional problem that we're facing. So that's the problem. What do you do to find a solution? Well, the Village of Park Forest back in 2009 did some investigating and realized that what is happening across the country in places like Park Forest in the south suburbs where you have blighted conditions is you create land banks that have the opportunity to take some of this property and to reduce the tax burden that's existing so that someone is more inclined to buy it and then get those homes back on the market. So we collaborated initially with 2 other communities that create the South Suburban Land Bank Authority. Now, since that time, there are 13 communities now in the south suburbs that have joined that because they see the positive effect of it. The land bank has been responsible in part for us being able to get homes back on the tax rolls, to get Habitat for Humanity and other groups to come in.
I want to thank you, Mr. Ostenberg. Time is up.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by saying I understand that I was in violation for a code, and I want to apologize to the nonpartisan group. And Jack has been a hero in any situations that I've had and brought forth to him. So I wanted to start off by saying I apologize for whatever violation, although I didn't mention any names. If it was offensive, I apologize. Second, I'd like to thank the co-op for giving this forum. When I came here some years ago with my family and myself, my son Dash, was born here. My daughter came into Rich East High School and graduated, where I became a booster parent and fell right into the community service clubs that were here, because that's what I've always done. If you look at my history, I've always reached out and helped my community. Far as jobs, far as safety, and things of that nature. One of the things that keep coming up is the housing problem. Although the housing problem situation is not only in Park Forest, and Park Forest did not start it, it's our job to fix it. Now, when the trustees was here, they talked about a situation far as having a resident requirement for our police officers and our fire department. I think I'm wholeheartedly with that, and here's a few reasons. Once the homes will be back on the tax roll, and that would help us lower the taxes or at least stabilize the taxes. The other thing that it would do is bring safety to the neighborhood, because as far as people hanging out on the streets or selling drugs or doing any type of gang activity, if the police is on that block, that's not going to happen. And I think everyone should have skin in the game. If you represent this town, I think it's a pretty good deal to live here. Why are people leaving? And then last but not least, there are police that do live in this town that represent the police department.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Time is up. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now start the question portion of the session for village president. As I've indicated previously, there will only be 9 questions asked of the candidates for village president. You are limited to 45 seconds in asking your question. Please do not make a statement. Please do not incorporate a statement in your question. So we'll start with you, sir. Please state your name and address.
My name is Andrew Gladstone from 118 Willow.
Thank you.
Primarily directed towards Mr. Brown, in the event of so many anticipated cuts from Springfield, I'd like to know how you would deal both with Springfield in terms of personnel, both Park Forest and in the government, but also, should that prove fruitless, how will you deal with this anticipated cut in terms of its impact with our community?
Thank you. This is a question that is directed toward candidate Brown. However, Mr. Ostenberg will be given an opportunity to respond if he wishes. Mr. Brown.
Okay, I think there's about 4 or 5 questions in that, so I'm going to try to divide them up and figure them out. As far as personnel, I think that you said in Springfield, the only thing that we could do is reach out to our constituents and let them know who are in favor of the cuts and who are not in favor. We have to educate our constituents that are here, which I am happy that we did that, because with me being an elected official, when I came into Park Forest, I was welcomed with open arms, and you just don't know how that feels, because it's a lot of things that are said and being connected in Park Forest and with offices that are being appointed to and things of that nature. I wasn't one of those guys. I was a person that came out, and the people that's in this audience and the people that are watching us on this television gave me an opportunity. And I think that when you give a person opportunity, you give them basically life. So as far as the personnel and the businesses in Park Forest, what I do, and I think everybody pretty much had a knowledge that I'm a job developer. And what do I do as job developer? As a job developer, I'm dealing with business on a day-to-day basis. I deal with employing people that are unemployed, and I also deal with businesses where I have relationships to bring businesses into Park Forest. So although we have some cuts, we have to definitely come up with situations. We can't go around saying that we didn't cause this problem. We have to come up with a solution no matter what the problem is or who created it.
Thank you. Mr. Oxenberg, you have the opportunity to respond if you wish.
Thank you, Judge. I think, Andy, your question was regarding what do we do in Springfield to try to alleviate the problem that the governor has proposed, and then if that doesn't work, then how do we handle it? We have had contact with all of our legislators through South Suburban Mayors and Managers, the Legislative Committee. I serve on that committee. We've had interaction with them. I think we have solid support of our South Suburban Legislative group that they will not vote for any of those cuts, the magnitude that the governor's asking. A week ago, this past Friday, I was one of 12 mayors from the south suburbs who met personally with the governor, and we made it clear to him that while the economic impact in other regions of Chicagoland may not be as dramatic as they are in the south suburbs it could be devastating. If we lose $1.3 million, that's going to mean a hole in our budget that is going to require just extreme measures to try to close it. And stop and think what will happen to other communities. Stop and think what will happen to Madison, that's already in an economic downturn, looking at eliminating police officers, things of that sort. They won't lose quite as much because their population is a little smaller than ours, but they would also lose significantly. And that's true of all of the other communities around. So I think that the key really is that we have to use our connections throughout the state of Illinois, in Springfield, in the South Suburban region, talking to the elected officials. I think the Attorney General seems to be pretty much on our side, that there's some of these measures that may be unconstitutional, but we have to keep emphasizing that point. And certainly citizen involvement and citizen assistance is a tremendous asset in us being able to achieve that. The more citizens that reach out to our legislators and let them know that you support them staying on our side on this issue, the more they're going to remain firm. So that's the best I can offer at this point.
Thank you. Next question, sir. Your name, please, and address.
My name is Mr. Newman, and I'm from 353 Minocqua Street, Park Forest, Illinois. And my question for both of you guys is, what happened with the $20 million discrimination lawsuit with Park Forest?
Thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Ostenberg.
I'm wondering what lawsuit this was in regard to.
The discrimination.
Which discrimination lawsuit? I'm just not sure what you're talking about. Are you talking about the lawsuit that involved the rental property in the downtown?
Yes.
Okay. The previous owner of the rental property in the north and south side of the downtown area had filed suit against the Village of Park Forest, claiming that our enforcement of our building codes at that property were based on the fact that their population was predominantly African American. That was taken to federal court. The case was actually heard last April. The jury ruled in our favor on all points except one, and that one was a relatively minor point. I think that it was $1.5 million that they arrived at as a settlement because the way we enforced the building code violations within the complex itself, we enforced it more heavily in two of the areas than in the third one. And our insurance, of course, picked up that. But it was ruled that we did not discriminate against them in any way. The lawsuit itself, I think, in most quarters was considered to be frivolous. Another one of those situations of where, it cost our insurance company a tremendous amount of money to have to provide the legal defense for us, and then that means that our premiums go up. Everyone's premiums go up when you have cases of that sort. But certainly the behavior of the Village of Park Forest, we were completely exonerated of any of the charges relating to discriminatory treatment of that complex. What was kind of ironic was that they used a comparison with another piece of property in town, the former Arbor Trails, I think it's called Autumn Ridge now, and the minority population in that property was actually higher than it was in the Thorn Creek rental area that filed suit, and yet they were saying that we were discriminating against them because they were heavily African American. Actually, Autumn Ridge was more heavily African American. So we felt very good about the fact that that case was thrown out. There are some elements that are on appeal, but we're pretty confident that they won't go anyplace.
Thank you, Mr. Osterberg. Mr. Brown.
First of all, I'll be very clear on this subject because it's a sensitive subject. I was not on a board when this took place. I believe it took, the lawsuit came up for about 4 years ago, and it was, the verdict was decided last year around July, I believe. We was not exonerated of everything. The fact of the matter, we lost a couple $1 million in this lawsuit, and it was for discrimination. From what I understand, the people that are involved saying that they wouldn't have done anything different. So when a village lose millions of dollars and a person say they would take the same road or do the same activities that they did that make us lose millions of dollars, that's a situation. And just to hitchhike on what I said, when I started with my opening statement, I said if I was in a violation, I apologize. When you are arrogant enough to say, no matter if I did something right or wrong, I'll do it again, how much more money are you willing to cost this village? And even though insurance did pay for this fine that we did receive, the premiums of the insurance that we pay will go up, and it will be spread amongst the property owners that are in Park Forest. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Marvin Holman. I'm at 43 Indian Wood Boulevard. And my question is, throughout the campaigns, I've seen that current Mayor Ostenberg, in your campaigns, you kept on repeating that you're not going to run again. You're asking for our vote one last time. Also, you promised a lot of different programs that never started, one of which I have a question about, which is the Richard Dent program. What actually happened with that? It was promised and everybody was looking forward to it, and it never happened.
Is this a question for both candidates or for candidate Ostenberg?
Both can answer. Both can answer.
So are you directing the question to one candidate?
Both can answer.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Ostenberg.
Well, first of all, I don't know that there's anything in any of my campaign literature that says I'm not going to run again. I'm not going to say that I'm not. I'm not going to say that I am. But I have not seen anything, and I haven't been asked that question, so I don't know where you got that particular feeling. But if that's your feeling, that's fine. The Richard Dent situation, I think I answered at the very first forum. The same question came up. Richard was firm in his commitment to Park Forest. The problem he had was that he could not get the federal dollars that he needed for the program that he wanted to put into effect. And that was it. I mean, he couldn't get funding. And, his loyalty to Park Forest remains strong. He's been out here for several events, some involving young people. At one event, he actually gave out pins to everybody who was there with recognizing him for being admitted to the Hall of Fame, the Football Hall of Fame. He stays in contact with us through his staff people. What we said to him was, we can't keep that property free waiting for you on an indefinite period. So we have to try to put that property back on the market. He understands that. I think if the funding were to be forthcoming from the federal government, he would pick up where he left off. He's been able to do this successfully in the city, working with People's Gas and a few other entities. It's an important thing because not only does it mean we have a business functioning in Park Forest, but it's one of those businesses that could help us attract other businesses, because what he does is he increases the opportunity for energy efficiency in plant operations and things of that sort. That's what his company does. So you can see that if we were able to say to a potential business located in Park Forest, we have this advantage of you being able to actually save on your energy costs, et cetera, that would be an advantage to us. So, we certainly hope that he can get the financing he needs to carry through on the program, because it's a great program. And he's a very honorable person who was very direct with us in saying, I don't have the money to do it.
Thank you. Mr. Brown.
I think the operative word is not in this situation. The project did not happen. And as of right now, we still can't come to grips and be honest about the situation. The project did not happen. If you all could remember 4 years ago when this situation came up, one thing that I do is a lot of research, and I do a lot of homework on situations. When the Richard Dent project came to the village, I did research on it. This same project was supposed to happen in Inglewood, which is located in Chicago. It didn't happen then. And when the project came here to Park Forest, I did just simple math. And the simple math was, with the time frame that they gave that project would happen, if y'all could remember clearly, I said, which camera am I on? I said, is that one? I said, this will not happen. And all you have to do is go back into the archives of the videos that we show, and you can see I made that statement, and it was still said at that time that this project was still up and going and ready to be presented to the people of Park Forest. But if you look at the history, every election that come on that we've had here in the past, far as Park Forest is concerned, there's always this big boom that's going to happen, and it never take place. The Norwood Plaza had a ribbon cutting ceremony, and that building was condemned. That was never opened. The Richard Dent situation, there's nowhere in the world that a project of that magnitude could be completed within 2 or 4 months. You have mold, asbestos, you have roofing, drywall, you have a ton of things that you would have to complete before the chains could be taken off that door. And during this time, when this was presented to Park Forest, the chains haven't even been broken off the door. I drove around the property every day to see how far they got. There was never no intent to bring the Richard Dent project here.
Thank you, sir. Next question. Good afternoon, sir. Your name, please?
Hello, I am Milton Moses, and I am at 12 Abbey Lane, Park Forest, Illinois. My question is about the youth. In our youth, they need guidance and they need support, definitely with the teens that we have today. So my question is for both candidates. How have you supported our youth at sporting events at Rich East and the Park Forest Hurricanes? Also, what type of mentoring programs have you done in the past? Do you do that you are working on currently and that you will do in the future?
Thank you. We'll start this round with Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown?
Good questions. Of course, like I said, I have a daughter that just graduated from Rich East. I have a son that's 5 years old that played bitty ball. Last year he was on the White Sox. They don't know what team he'll be on this year. He played with the Volunteers. I'm totally invested into the youth. Right now, I want to put my skin in the game because I wouldn't ask anyone in this room to do something that I wasn't prepared to do myself. I spoke in the last forum that with the kids, with my 5-year-old, if I want to take him somewhere to celebrate or do a graduation or his birthday, we have to go to Tinley Park, to Odyssey Fun World, or we have to go to Lansing to Jumpin' Jack. There's a ton of kids here, but we don't have anything here for them to celebrate. So right now, my focus is next door to Country Squire's store is a huge enough area where we can bring that facility in. I'm talking to some of my friends that are investors and business owners and things of that nature to see if it will be a wise investment. I know it'll be a wise investment. I'm just trying to come up with the funding, which I think that I may have at this time. The safety issue part of this is I work for a company called YAP, which is a youth advocate program, where we took at-risk teens that didn't only cut classes, but they cut people, not necessarily with knives, but with bullets. We took guns out of their hands and replaced them with pens and pads, and made them bound toward college and toward the service. Once again, I've said this before, I'm still getting invitations now to come and watch people graduate that I've helped in the past. And I continue to do that with the job that I have now because one of the bigger clienteles that we have is DCFS. And if you don't think that we have a problem here in our community, far as the youth is concerned, all you have to do is go to the police department. We had a string of break-ins throughout the whole entire Park Forest, from Will County to Cook County, to co-ops, to property owners, Bloom Creek, Monique, and Ridge Township. Thank you.
Your time is up. Mr. Ostenberg.
Thank you. I think that there's, the youth issue is one that has many complexities to it, and we need to address them all individually, I think. One of the things, the first thing that I did when I became mayor was to reestablish the Park Forest Youth Commission, which had been around years ago. Many of you probably remember the old Youth Commission. It was responsible for the creation of Aunt Martha's Youth Service Center, which is now an international operation of providing services for young people. But for whatever reason, the Youth Commission was halted way back a number of years. So we recreated the Youth Commission. And I think some of the things that one of the candidates talked about in the trustee portion of the meeting talked about a number of things that are now happening for our young people through the Youth Commission. And she didn't mention the fact that one of the components, part of the money that's coming from the carnival, is going to fund scholarships for some young people who need them in order to go to college. So there's a lot of activity of that sort. The police department established its PAC unit just a few years ago. That involves a lot of our local teenagers working with police officers and with volunteer personnel and some professional personnel that they bring in to assist them. We have collaborated with the Park Forest Library now for the creation of the Teen Zone, which has gotten off the ground and is doing some really good work. We have a number of facilities that teenagers can make use of. The Aqua Center, some of the things that happen at Freedom Hall, but we're also working very closely with Rich East High School, not just on recreation things, but on programs that will assist them in finding jobs for their kids, the ones who don't go to college. And our new Makers Lab in the downtown is being used in part as a way to foster that. I was just on a program on Thursday with the principal from Rich East and Molly Dowling, who heads OAI, which is a job training program, and we're trying to develop some programs so some of the kids who don't go to college can get a job when they graduate.
Thank you, Mr. Ostenberg. Start with our next question. Good afternoon, sir. Your name again, please?
My name is John Lester. I live at 192 Park Street.
Thank you.
This question have already been partial asked. I have an article here in the Sun Times. It's dated March the 1st. And the amount of money that the government is going to cut for Park Forest, the exact amount is $1,085,900. One of the sources of revenue that the village usually have is fees.
What is your question, sir? No. Please answer.
My question is, how is the village going to make this up in their budget?
Is this directed to both candidates?
First, Mr. Osberg. Okay, and the one thing I want him to address in this question, normally the village has various sources of income, fees, taxes, and reduction in service. Yeah, and we need a continuous program, even though if this don't go in effect. So are you working on a continuous program?
Thank you, sir. The question is for Mr. Ostenberg, and Mr. Brown will have the opportunity to respond if he wishes. Mr. Ostenberg.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lester. I think that, what I mentioned earlier is the key. The first thing that we wanted to do is to prevent the cuts from taking place. I think that's the critical thing. From all indication that we've received from our legislators, there probably will be some cuts, but they won't be anywhere near as dramatic as we fear, because the legislators have been convinced that it's just not in the best interest of they have to report to you. You vote them into office, and their ability to retain their seats could very heavily depend on how they deal with this crisis. So I don't think we're going to see the massive slash that the governor has asked for, although we can't let up in our fighting to prevent that. But prevention is the best thing. Secondly, though, if in fact we face the reality of those kinds of cuts, I think what we're going to have to do is cut services. I think we're at a point in the village where we're trying to bring more revenue in, but we're in nowhere near the kind of position that would justify us dramatically increasing taxes or things of that sort. We tried to keep our local levy tax increase to the minimum over the last several years. For most of those years, it's been about 1.9%, which is slightly below the cost of living. The big increases are occurring in the school districts, which we have no control over. But we're trying to collaborate with the school districts more so. But I have to tell you also that right now there's an effort that several of us are working on. I'm working with the mayor in Chicago Heights and some others to address this property tax issue. It has to be addressed in Cook County because the system we have in Cook County is really harmful to areas that already are suffering the greatest economic blight. It makes it difficult for us to attract new businesses. It makes it difficult for people to stay in their homes, to be perfectly honest. It's an upside down system. It works okay in the areas where they have a lot of commercial activity, but in areas like ours, you don't even have the opportunity to attract commercial.
Thank you, Mr. Ostenberg. Mr. Brown, do you wish to respond?
Sure.
You may proceed.
In time of peace, prepare for war. That's what the book says. And at this time, there's nothing that we have in effect that that will help us with this situation. The only thing that we can say is why not, instead of saying this is the plan that we have set forth. So let me hitchhike again on the requirement for the police and fire department. From what I've heard previously from different candidates and of people who are elected officials saying that a police being harassed or their kids being harassed, to me, that's just ridiculous. My brother just retired from Chicago Police Department as a detective, and he have to live in Park Forest. But once again, like I said, I'm not going to ask anyone to do what I want to do. I have skin in the game. As elected official here in Park Forest, guess where I have to live? Right here in Park Forest. On a second account, everyone who's have came up to this podium thus far have given their address. And some of these questions are favorable maybe to myself. Some are favorable to Mr. Oxenberg. So are we going to go and will the boogeyman come out and get that person because he's given his address? Like I said, we have to say time out for the nonsense that is happening. We have to get away from the hatred that is going on right now. If you vote for me, well, if you vote for him, you got to hate me. I'm so tight on the people that are working my campaign. No one has ever got out of hand, did any name calling, or made any suggestions of anything that has been negative. So like I say, in time of peace, prepare for war. Bring those people, have that resident requirement, be more business friendly, and tell the truth about businesses that are coming or not coming, to Park Forest.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. We'll have our next question.
Andrew DeCosmo, 81 North Orchard Drive.
Thank you.
I'll make this question quick. This question is for Mr. Ostenberg, and I promise you it's not about the boogeyman. My question is, as a current homeowner in Park Forest, what can you do to incentivize us to stay in our homes instead of leaving the town?
Thank you. The question is directed to Mr. Ostenberg. Mr. Ostenberg.
Thank you very much. I think there are several things that we can do. There have been in better economic times, we were able to put together a program that offered home improvement opportunities for residents. Back, I think it was the first year that I was in office, we got a grant from the state of Illinois where we matched whatever a person put into putting in energy efficient storm doors or storm windows in their home, up to I think it was a $2,000 match per homeowner. We had a number of people take advantage of it. State of Illinois, unfortunately, when it ran into its economic downturn, started to pull some of that money away. We keep looking for grants that will give us that opportunity to do home improvement programs again. Unfortunately, a lot of the grants right now, because the economy is so tight, are for big projects that benefit a whole bunch of people at one time rather than individuals. That's how we've gotten the money, for example, for the Orchard Drive project or Lakewood Drive, Black Hawk, all of those places. It's much more difficult to try to find funds that you can use for programs that relate to one home versus another home. However, we have paid for architectural drawings. for home improvements on the average Park Forest home. These are available through the building department. We've had actually a seminar here in Village Hall where we offered these to people if they're looking to put an addition on or to make some other kind of improvement. They won't have to go out and get an architectural drawing because here are the samples of how you could do it effectively, cost effectively. So we're trying to do programs of that sort, but overall, with our economic conditions being what they are right now, we don't have a lot of funds to give out. That's what it boils down to.
Thank you. Mr. Brown, do you wish to respond?
Sure. Where people won't leave Park Forest, and how do we have the people to stay here? Do smart business. Simple as that. One, and I'll come back to the business-friendly part. Let me go on to, we have a failing development that's in our downtown area of homes that was built. You all heard me talk about that before. When you're trying to grow a community, you need to have young blood to come in. And what we used to call them was yuppies. I don't know what they call now. And that's young urban professions that have a growing family, if you will. Well, a growing family have kids that's my age and maybe younger, 5 years old and younger, where they develop a area here in the downtown area that don't have backyards. So that really don't make a lot of sense, is to create homes that don't have a backyard for a growing family. Secondly, who else will be able to move there could afford baby senior citizens? Well, all of the bedrooms are on the second floor, so it's a bad idea for the senior citizens. So who are these houses made for? Well, I don't know, because half of them are foreclosed on or vacant, right? After that, we have a street called Tamarack. Half of the houses over here with some property taxes over there that range from $10,000, $20,000, $22,000 a year, which if you're paying $22,000 a year, you probably should have a horse in the backyard, but that's not the case. Those homes are being foreclosed and vacant as well. Now, the golf course that we had, guess what we're talking about building there? More homes. Or at least property that people could live on. We have went to Governor State. Governor State said we don't need any property as far as residents. We have enough property here where we could build forever as far as dorms and things tonight. And we still went over there and asked them, hey, come on, we have property. Well, we don't want it. So we're still looking at, we could build residential and some storefronts. I don't want to be misquoted, and storefronts there, and it's not going to work.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Next question. Good afternoon, sir. Your name, please, and address.
Ben Armstrong, 445 Wildwood. And during the winter, people have got to walk in the streets because the sidewalks are not cleared. This is a very dangerous way to get around. You see it all over Park Forest all the time. I was wondering if you would support a new policy of the village not only clearing the streets, but also the sidewalks so that people can get from A to B safely.
This is for both candidates.
Yes.
Mr. Brown, we'll start with you, sir.
Was that with the winter? I'm sorry.
Yeah, winter snow removal. Or whenever there's snow that falls and has to be removed, not only should they clear the streets, would you support clearing the sidewalks of the entire village?
Thank you, sir.
It would create jobs.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I would not put that on the back of the village because we're struggling now. However, maybe we could help the contractors out here, because I definitely don't want to put anyone out of business. So you have a ton of snow removal companies that are throughout the South region, and they'll be more than happy. But I think as a property owner, you should be entitled to remove the snow from your property or around your property. And once again, with putting that price tag on the village, I don't think that would be a favorable thing. If it happens, trust me, taxes will be going up. That's a fact.
But the sidewalks will never be cleared.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Ostenberg?
I agree that the cost factor is the major handicap there. I mean, it's one of those things, you know, there's a lot of good ideas that come up from different people at different times, believe me. And 99% of them we've looked into and investigated, and there are costs related to doing things, even though it's a great idea. You know, how do you get over that burden of having enough personnel to actually, I mean, we struggle to get the streets clean because we have limited personnel. And then to add to that the additional burden of cleaning the sidewalks, I just don't think. Now, what's the alternative? One alternative is that through the teen zone, which has been created now in collaboration with the library and with the youth commission, they have kids that you can call and you can actually get them to come out and shovel your snow. And they do it very reasonably. They're very reputable. They've gone through the, you know, you don't have to worry about a kid that's going to maybe size up your house to see what he can come back to get, you know, because these kids have been vetted through the teen zone, and they will do that at a reasonable cost. That's a nice alternative. You know, we have a lot of senior citizens in town, and I understand that it's the obligation to clean the sidewalk, but really a lot of people just can't get out there and do it. That's the reality of it. So that's an option with the teen zone that people can make use of. If we had the funds available, I think the idea of cleaning all the sidewalks in town is a great idea, you know, and frankly, you know, we're trying to create more walking paths and bike paths in town that we want people to use. You know, we have to keep those open so people can take advantage of them.
Thank you, Mr. Ostenberg. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're starting now with question number 7. As a reminder, we're limiting our questions to 9 questions. Good afternoon,
Good
ma'am.
afternoon. And first of all, I'd like to commend and thank you both for being willing to serve us. My name is Jolene Evans. I came to the south suburbs in 19...
Yes, Ms. Evans?
Can you hear me?
Yes,
hey,
we can.
Hey, Judge Funderburk, nice to see you.
Your address, Ms.
I just
Evans.
want to say this. For many years, well, for 8 years, I was the president of the Far South Suburban NAACP, and we used to hold a forum right here, and our moderator was Judge Funderburk. I'm glad to see you're still doing it. Thank you. Okay, a little bit of...
Now your question.
Yes, my question. Here we go. Okay, I was about to say I came to the south suburbs in 1960. When I came here, all of the towns, Richton Park, Madison, everything was white. My question, okay, I'll get to my question. Okay, my question is, I have to say Park Forest was one of the first towns to integrate. Okay, my question is, Park Forest has always been a well-manicured, integrated town with well-manicured lawns, neat houses, and good people, good kids. We didn't have any trouble. Now, we had a neighborhood watch. We had to talk. Question, please. I'm getting to it. Okay, excuse me. I know. Excuse me. I have to say this, and I don't mean to bogart the conversation, but I am 76 years old as of last Friday, and I think you owe it to me to say something. Okay. I have a voice, and I speak for a lot of people that's not going to speak, but I'm going to probably touch on their questions when I get through speaking. Now, my question is this, but I have to preface it with, we had a nice, lovely town, nice manicured lawns, nice looking homes. We had somebody, getting back to the other question, can we get the city to plow our sidewalks? No, we can't do that. We had somebody who would come around this town and go to the houses, knock on the doors and say, you need to get your snow shovel. You need to get your lawn mowed. You need to get your house painted. Excuse me. The question is, do we still have a person who can do that? And do we still have a person for neighborhood watch? And if we don't, are you guys willing to institute those things again?
All right, thank you, Ms. Evans.
Thank you.
We'll start this round with Mr. Ostenberg. Mr. Ostenberg.
Thank you, Ms. Evans. I'm glad to see that you have not lost any of your spunk.
Oh, thank you.
Our police department just recently, under former Chief Butts, who just retired, he recreated actually what had been in place several years ago, and that's assigning a police officer to a specific area of town to kind of look out for the needs of that neighborhood. So every police officer now has a community portion that they have to look out for, in addition to their regular beat. So they look out for the kinds of problems that some of our senior citizens have. They look out for, is there some kind of activity going on in that neighborhood that's questionable, where there could be drug dealing going on or things of that sort. They look out for cars that are left, abandoned vehicles, to the kind of mar the overall appearance of the community. And so far it's been effective. I mean, the officers are actually, I had some calls from some people in my neighborhood because they wanted to know what was going on. 2 police officers were walking down the street and they were worried about it. Well, when I checked with the village manager, they were just there because they were trying to get their good sense of what's going on in that neighborhood. And that's happening in other places. So we're hoping that this will kind of recreate that sense of a relationship, with the local residents, so that they feel that they have a person they can go to. A lot of times people don't want to call because it's not really a criminal complaint, but they have a complaint about just maybe the neighbor isn't keeping things up quite as well, or the dog's barking kind of late at night. Those are the kinds of things that these officers, as community beat officers, are going to be looking for.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenberg. Mr. Brown.
A couple things. That we do have a code enforcement team, and they are around giving tickets. And even with the inspections, they don't allow inspections to just pass just because. I bought a house myself, and I think I had an unfair inspection, believe it or not. And I made phone calls, and it didn't help. But far as Park Forest being integrated, that's one of the reasons why we moved here. And then when I got here, most of the things that I know, I'm not a person who believe in reinventing the wheel or creating all of this new stuff. I go out and I talk to the people, I talk to the businesses and things of that nature, and I get information from the people. And basically what I've heard is, basically we are done. And I even picked a record called We Are Done by what's the group name? The who? The Madden Brothers, called We Are Done. That's not nice. But it's called We Not Done, and We Are Done. And basically it's talking about bullying, and whether it's person to person or whether it's cyberbullying and things of that nature. People had brought the situation to me, asking about, as a trustee, asking about the representation of minorities that are on our police and fire department, and I brought that to the board. And from that point, our human resource department have went out and reached out to other communities and different schools to try to make it favorable, saying that we do want our government to reflect the people that's here. I think that Park Forest has become a melting bowl, and I think it should have that representation as well. And
I must.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you too. And since I'm the last person, I think they told me. Somebody told me I was the last person.
You are not the last person.
How many people come after me? And I'm gonna make this short so they can get their questions in. But when I said neighborhood watch, I was talking about a program we had, and there was a police officer. We could go meet with her, and she would give us signs. We put them in our windows, and everybody on our block would be watching our neighborhood.
Thank you, Ms.
Now,
Evans.
the police officers would be watching too. And one day the police officer saw some boys walking down the street with a black bag and found out they had stolen something. Last year, somebody burglarized my house. What are we going to do about the neighborhood watch and the recent influx of crime? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Your name, please, and address.
Give me a minute. I almost forgot who I was. All right. My name is Victor Harris. I'm at 410 Winnebago Street. And it's a two-part question. One, the properties that Park Forest own, how were they paid for? And two, what do you plan on doing with as far as expanding economic development?
This is a question for both candidates?
Both candidates.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Brown.
Could you ask that first part? I heard the second part.
Okay, the first part was all the property that's owned by Park Forest, how was it paid for? Was it our tax dollars, and what do you plan on doing as far as developing it?
The properties that was acquired?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And what we plan on doing with it?
Yes, the golf course, the property on North Street.
Gotcha.
Norwood Plaza, the property that. where the
Did you
school
understand the
on
question,
Wildwood.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
I know that we had that conversation earlier, speaking about the land bank, where houses are basically, what's the right word to use? Not inherit, but in a sense, relieved from the owners to the village. Now, we're saying that is, if we go back to what I'm saying, it wouldn't be so many homes that would be in bad shape and vacant if we had a resident requirement with the police department and with our fire department. I'm not telling the people that's on the department that they have to move from their homes. Now, I'm saying that they could be godfather in, but at the same time, we could give them an incentive to move back here to Park Forest. But anyone that's coming on board with Park Forest Fire or Police Department, I'm saying that it's a must. We could give them 3 to 6 months to move here. That's what other towns and villages are doing. As far as the golf course, I think that the golf course should go strictly to entertainment. It's away from everything and everyone. It's funny that this guy asked me this, and I wish I had some handouts. What I've been looking at doing with that area over there, there's a place in Arizona called Rawhide. When I did the research here in the state of Illinois, we have thousands and thousands and thousands of cowboys that are here, and there's no facility like that around. Instead of trying to put up something like a Great America, something like that, we could build us an old Western town that's in the golf course area. It wouldn't be expensive. We could look at private owners where a person could come in an old Western town and have horseback riding and everything else. Now, you also you could go on the website and look at Rawhide, look at the facility, see the money that they're making. It won't just bring monies from Park Forest, but it'll bring money throughout the state and out of the country.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Ashtonberg.
Okay, first of all, to answer your question in terms of how we acquired the properties, most of the properties that the village owned, we acquired through what is called a no-cash bid that the county offers. What happens is when properties go into tax delinquency, there's a certain amount of time that whoever owns that property is given the opportunity to redeem it. If they don't redeem it, it goes to a sale. And if someone comes in and is willing to pay all the back taxes and penalties and fees, they can actually acquire that property. But most of the time, nobody wants to pay that price for the properties. So the village can go in as a governmental unit, and we can establish a no cash bid, and then we can get title to it. So that's how we got the Norwood Square property, for example, and we have certain buildings throughout town, some housing and things that we've acquired that way. Now, in terms of the golf course belonged to the village. That was village property from the beginning. The golf course, our conversations with the Governor State, and Trustee Brown was at some of the meetings, I thought he would understand this. Our conversations has not been to provide housing for Governor State. It's a concept that has developed from the Brookings Institution that's called innovation districts. Innovation districts are, in fact, collaborations of municipalities, businesses, and institutions of higher education to bring it together for research purposes and things of that sort. Where private businesses would be located, there would be laboratories, there would be offices, a variety of different things. The consultant who is advising us is suggesting that we might want to take a portion of the property and also do some housing on it. But the village has not approached it with the notion that that's going to be a housing development. That was a concept that was explored when the property initially was taken off of being a golf course, and that concept really was abandoned a long time ago. But the innovation district has the potential. Now, when you stop and you think that the train station is right there for commuter traffic, Stunkel Road is being expanded, there's a lot of opportunities there for an innovation district.
Thank you, Mr. Ashtonberg. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our last and final question. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Patsy Graves, a 61 year resident of Park Forest and happy all the time we've been here. This is a great town. My question is, I've been hearing, Mr. Brown, that you have told people you're going, as individuals, you're going to cut their taxes and give them a job. And I watched the campaign during this time, and I feel like it's time for you to account for those remarks. Thank you.
Was that your question?
Yes.
Is this question directed to Mr. Brown or to both candidates?
Well, John can answer if he
Of
wants
course.
to.
Mr. Brown, the question is directed to you.
Cut taxes and give them a job? Is that what the question is? I'm glad that you asked the question so we can clarify some things right here. I talk to, when I'm on a campaign trail, I tell people how we can cut taxes, because if there's a rumor that is said the only way that we could cut taxes is by cutting services. And I'm saying that's 100% wrong. We could cut taxes by bringing businesses in all the abandoned places that we have on North Street, the downtown area, Wood Plaza. I mean, you kind of pick it and you'll understand the golf course. If we had businesses in maybe half of those places, we could cut taxes.
I'm concerned about the individual remark to people.
Please, let's give the candidate an opportunity to answer the question.
Right.
You may continue, Mr. Brown.
And so I give people a way of how to cut taxes without cutting services, because it's bad business to continue to not tell the truth to the people who are paying these taxes, and myself being one paying a lot of taxes, that there's no way that we could cut taxes unless we cut services. The other thing is, what was the second part of your question? I'm sorry.
Jobs.
Yeah, jobs. I don't promise people jobs. That's what I do for a living. I get people jobs. I've never went to any one door and told them I could get them a job. You had to meet certain criteria for me to give you a job, and that's low income. And the low income, we have filled jobs in Park Forest and the surrounding area of Park Forest. My focus on Park Forest is because I'm a resident here. I've hired plenty of people in Park Forest, but we have hired people outside of Park Forest as well. The office that we have that's near here is at 1010 Dixie Highway, and it's counts. And we've hired, actually, I worked last Monday, I worked 21 hours because I am committed to what I do. Went in to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and left on Tuesday at 4 o'clock in the morning, because whatever I believe in, I'm like today, I don't know if you all noticed, I'm sick. I got food poisoning last night, but because of the commitment that I have for you guys, and you all came to hear my side, I came here anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank
Time
you.
is. I'm sorry that you got food poisoning.
Yeah.
All right. Mr. Ostenberg, do you wish to respond?
Yeah, let me just say a couple of things. Thank you, Judge. First of all, I don't think any of us are proposing that the only way to cut taxes is to eliminate services. We're talking about elimination of services potentially if we get cut from the state, from what the state provides to us. That's a completely different ballgame. Taxes, you know, the way we're going to solve the tax problem, and it's going to also be the way that we're going to open the door for creating more business in Park Forest, is to change the taxing system in Cook County. I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but in Cook County, it's the only county in the state of Illinois where business pays roughly twice in taxes what the local homeowner pays. Now, that's a really good situation if you're in an area where you have a lot of commercial activity. But if you don't have a lot of commercial activity, what it means is that, number one, the homeowners are paying a disproportionate amount compared to other regions of Chicagoland, and that's what happens in the south suburbs. Number two, it's harder to attract businesses because they don't have anybody to share that extra burden with. If you're up in Schaumburg and you got, 100 businesses, you're sharing that extra 50% with a lot of people, and it gets spread around. That's not the case in the south suburbs. So that's the big stumbling block. It's the brick wall that we run up against. We bring businesses who look and say everything is fine until they see what the taxes are going to be. And as soon as they see what the taxes are going to be, off they go. And it's not just Park Forest. That's why, as I mentioned, I'm collaborating with Mayor Gonzalez in Chicago Heights. We're working with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. We're working with the Brookings Institution to try to see if we can create a pilot program that will demonstrate to the county that leveling this playing field is beneficial for everybody. It's beneficial for the homeowners, and it's beneficial for attracting new business, because the more business we bring in, the more level the taxes are going to be on the homeowners too. But it has to be, you can't just magically say it's going to happen. You've got to convince a lot of policymakers. This has been in place since the Constitutional Convention of 1969. It's going to be difficult to change it, but we're working on it.
Thank you, Mr. Ostenberg.
Thank you, Judge.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the question portion of our forum for the candidates for village president. I ask that you hold your applause. Through a very scientific method, we determined that Mr. Brown would proceed first with a closing statement. Mr. Brown, 2-minute closing statement.
Great. Once again, I'd like to thank you all for giving me the opportunity and welcome me and my family here in Park Forest. I also want to thank you for electing myself and giving me the opportunity to run for village president. There's a lot of things that we could do as a community to take this, to take the village of Park Forest to the next level. When we keep comparing ourselves to other communities and saying because we're taxed the wrong way or Cook County, it's time out for that. If we take a ride from 57 to Halsted, and you see lights at night, or you see businesses that are lit up until you go right past the metro station, which is where Park Forest pick up at, where we have no business at all. But when you pass it and you're going to Chicago Heights, there's lights and businesses again. And you could do that with our Salt Trail area, where Salt Trail have the businesses, but it stopped right at when Park Forest pick up, where the Speedway was. If you take Western, so when we keep talking about how we're taxed wrong, okay, that's the problem. The people who are in office haven't changed it, and they're not going to change it. So we have to be responsible for building this town. I would also, as running for this office, I'm telling you now, I would go with what Country Club Hills just did. I would put a term on the length of time that a person could be a village president here. I think it's ridiculous that our president is only staying 2 terms. I'm talking about for the United States, but we have people here that have been in office for 16, and I don't know anything that has helped us as a community, as far as taxes, businesses, safety, or anything that has been done in a 16-year period.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Ostenberg, you have the opportunity now for a 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you very much, Judge. Thank you all very much for paying attention to the few words I've had to share with you this afternoon. Thanks to the Non-Partisan Committee, and thanks to the co-ops for sponsoring this forum. You know, I've learned a lot in government over the course of the last 25 years. I almost didn't run for re-election this year because, you know, there were a lot of other things. I've gotten to that point in my life where I'd like to spend a little more time with my hobbies, spend a little more time with my family and things of that sort. But we are on the cusp of some dramatic changes in our region, and I have played a role in helping us get to that point, and I want to see us come to fruition. You know, the governor temporarily has put a hold on the 3rd airport, but I think that hold will come off. When I talk to legislators, that's what they tell me. The governor has temporarily put a hold on any expansion of the Iliana Expressway. But again, what the legislators tell us is he has to get our votes in order to stop that, and he doesn't have our votes. So I think these projects are going to go forward. These are the projects that many of us have been working on over the course of the last 25 years. And, you know, I can understand the fact that, you know, I have served longer than any of the other presidents in the village of Park Forest. But I've given my time and my energy to every moment that I have served in those roles. And when I go to Washington and I go into Dick Durbin's office, he knows who John Ostenberg is. And when I go to Springfield and I talk to legislators, or I talk to other individuals in offices, they know who I am. And that's how we've gotten, since I took office in 1999, the village of Park Forest, it's documented in this report that the village manager did, we have gotten $59 million in money coming in from grants that have made improvements in this village. Look at Orchard Drive. Look at Blackhawk Drive. Look at the fact that we were able to take down already. We've been able to take down 70 homes that were filled with mold and no one could live in them. And what were they going to do? Just sit there on the block and affect the value of all the rest of your properties? You know, we just got another grant for $350 from the Illinois Housing Development Authority to take down more homes.
Mr. Ostenberg, time is up. Thank you very much.
I'd like to have your vote.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a rousing applause for our candidates. I want to remind you all, ladies and gentlemen, to vote. Early voting starts on March 23rd through April 4th. Voting is on Tuesday, April 7th. Remember to vote for the candidate of your choice. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
When you start to say, well, I'm going to